Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. We need to start the session. We have a very, very important guest with us soon. Could you please take your seats, please? Could you please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I declare open the 6th plenary meeting of the General Conference, and I would like to kindly ask you to take your seats and keep a quiet and respectful room, because very soon we will have with us, before continuing with our agenda, we'll have the honor of welcoming a distinguished guest, namely His Excellency, the President of Kyrgyzstan, Mr. Sadyr Japarov, who will be with us in a minute. Please be so kind as to take your seats quickly, because we're waiting for the guest. Thank you for your cooperation. The President is about to come. Please take your seats quickly. Thank you so much. Your Excellencies, Madam Chairperson of the Executive Board, Madam Director General, ladies and gentlemen, it is my special honor and privilege to welcome His Excellency Mr. Sadir Japarov, the President of Kyrgyzstan. It would be difficult It would be difficult to enumerate the great number of accomplishments of His Excellency the President throughout his involvement to sustain and strengthen scientific and cultural dialogue. It would be also a pleasure to mention that under his presidency, Kyrgyzstan supports UNESCO's efforts and work towards a strong and even stronger regional and multilateral cooperation, in particular regarding glacier protection and water management. He advocates for the implementation of UNESCO projects to promote biological and geological diversity, as well as scientific research, highlighting the close link between preserving ecosystems and safeguarding the traditions of the communities who live in them. President Japarov additionally strongly supports UNESCO's cultural heritage mandate and its mission to maintain and enhance spiritual unity to preserve the people's traditions. He empowers future generations to nurture their common heritage. Bearing in mind His Excellency's involvement in culture and sustainable development, we warmly welcome President Japarov. Excellency, we are very truly and very honored by your visit, and we are looking forward to your words of wisdom. Please, I invite you to the floor, Your Excellency.
Уважаемая председатель Генеральной конференции, госпожа Симона Микулеску, уважаемая госпожа генеральный директор, ваше превосходительство, дамы и господа, прежде всего позвольте поздравить госпожу Симону Микулеску с избранием на пост председателя конференции. Желаю вам успехов и плодотворной работы на этом ответственном посту. В далеком 1986 году, в разгар холодной войны, знаменитый кыргызский писатель и дипломат Чингиз Айтматов организовал встречу интеллектуалов мира на берегу нашего прекрасного озера Иссык-Куль, получившую название Иссык-Кульский форум. Главной идеей этого форума всемирно известных и авторитетных писателей и деятелей культуры было призвать к конструктивному диалогу цивилизаций, культур, открытому обмену мнениями о дальнейшем развитии человечества. Наша очередная 42-я конференция проходит во времена, когда мы вновь сталкиваемся с серьезными угрозами для мира и безопасности, проблемами в налаживании позитивного взаимодействия и взаимопомощи, межконфессионального и межкультурного диалога. На фоне этих негативных трендов роль ЮНЕСКО как интеллектуального форума становится вновь как никогда актуальной. Дамы и господа, в последние годы мы все чаще становимся свидетелями новых климатических рекордов и нехватки водных ресурсов. Все это требует от нас незамедлительных действий. В сентябре, выступая на 78-й сессии Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН, я также затронул тему глобального изменения климата, в свете которого особенно уязвимыми оказались горные экосистемы и ледники. При риском исчезновения находятся многовековые ледники, реки и биоразнообразие горных экосистем. Кыргызстан, являясь высокогорной страной, не понаслышке сталкивается с проблемой таяния ледников и прорыва опасности ледниковых озер в условиях изменения климата. В целях решения проблем горных экосистем Кыргызстан более 20 лет активно продвигает в рамках ООН повестку в области устойчивого горного развития. Как известно, в 2022 году по инициативе нашей страны и Италии была единогласно принята резолюция Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН «Устойчивое горное развитие». Этот документ провозгласил 2023-2027 годы пятилетием действий по развитию горных регионов. С целью эффективного сохранения горных экосистем и ледников на основе резолюции Генеральной Ассамблеи ООН «Устойчивое горное развитие» при поддержке горного партнерства ФАО, агентств ООН и других международных организаций разработан глобальный план действий по реализации пятилетия действий по развитию горных регионов до 2027 года. Этот рамочный документ предлагается в качестве нового формата тесного взаимодействия горных стран, международных организаций и институтов ООН по привлечению внимания к проблемам горных стран и их решению. В целях дальнейшей реализации резолюции ООН мной подписан указ об объявлении в Кыргызской республике периода 2023-2027 годов пятилетием действий по развитию горных регионов. Разработана национальная дорожная карта по реализации пятилетия действий по развитию горных регионов на период 2023-2027 годов. В качестве завершающего этапа горного пятилетия мы планируем проведение в 2027 году в Кыргызстане второго глобального горного саммита «Бишкек плюс 25», спустя 25 лет после первого саммита. Хочу с этой высокой трибуны пригласить всех принять активное участие и внести свои конкретные обязательства для сохранения горных экосистем. Надеемся на всемирную поддержку инициатив Кыргызстана на площадке ЮНЕСКО и совместное плодотворное сотрудничество по сохранению горных экосистем и ледников. Уважаемые участники конференции, Кыргызстан привержен полноценной реализации целей устойчивого развития, которые напрямую интегрированы в национальную программу развития до 2026 года. В частности, в реализации цели 4 достигнуты большие успехи в сфере расширения доступа к образованию на всех уровнях и увеличения охвата школьным обучением. Понимая особую важность экологического обучения как пути к устойчивому будущему в краткосрочной и долгосрочной перспективе, Кыргызстан присоединился к глобальному партнерству по экологизации образования. В рамках трансформации образования проводится работа по созданию и модернизации эффективных цифровых обучающих платформ, повышению человеческого потенциала, улучшению качества преподавания в учебных заведениях, обеспечению устойчивых финансовых вложений. В сфере культуры в рамках Конвенции ЮНЕСКО в стране создана эффективная система государственной охраны и популяризации культурного наследия. Кыргызстан представлен в списке всемирного наследия 3 историко-культурными и природными объектами и 13 элементами нематериального культурного наследия. В репрезентативный список нематериального культурного наследия человечества внесено уникальное устное наследие кыргызского народа, эпическая трилогия «Манас Семетей Сейтек». Дамы и господа, разделяя принципы ЮНЕСКО, основанные на идеях высокого гуманизма, толерантности и развития диалога, Кыргызстан стремится внести свой посильный вклад в деятельность организации. Наша страна имеет богатый экспертный потенциал в областях деятельности ЮНЕСКО, который успешно применяет в работе в межправительственных комитетах ЮНЕСКО. С 2019 года мы являемся активным членом исполнительного совета ЮНЕСКО. Желая и далее вносить свой вклад в распространение ценностей культурного разнообразия, диалога и развития по всему миру, Кыргызстан выдвинул свою кандидатуру на переизбрание в исполнительный совет на период 2023-2027 года. Мы готовы и далее вносить вклад в деятельность организации путем избрания и активной работы в ее органах и комитетах. В заключение хотел бы завершить свое выступление заповедью нашего великого писателя Чингиза Айтматова. В этом году, 12 декабря, ему исполнилось бы 95 лет. «Берегите землю и природу, ибо не будет жизни на земле. Берегите свободу и мир, ибо не будет спокойствия в нашей жизни. Берегите любовь, нравы и совесть, ибо человек перестанет быть человеком. Не забывайте прошлого, ибо без него нет будущего». Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. President, for your inspiring and kind words. It was a real special moment for us here at the General Conference. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's suspend just for a couple of minutes the meeting in order to allow His Excellency Mr. Sadir Japarov to leave together with his entourage. Thank you very much. May I kindly ask the delegates to remain seated? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start with the national statements, I wish to inform the delegates that the Bureau held its second meeting this morning, of which I'm very pleased to give you a short report. Mesdames et Messieurs, le Bureau de la Conférence générale a tenu sa deuxième réunion ce matin. Les présidents des commissions APEX et Éducation et des comités juridiques et des candidatures ont fait rapport au Bureau sur l'état d'avancement des travaux des organes qu'ils président respectivement. Je suis heureuse de vous informer que leurs travaux avancent ponctuellement et sans entrave. Ensuite, conformément aux dispositions des directives concernant le partenariat de l'UNESCO avec les organisations non gouvernementales, le Bureau a examiné et approuvé la liste des ONG qui ont demandé de s'adresser à la conférence générale demain, samedi 11 et lundi 13 novembre. C'est tout. On a eu une très courte et très efficace réunion du Bureau et je vous remercie de votre attention. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue now with the work of the with our work, and we start the national statements. Before giving the floor to the first speaker of this morning, may I remind distinguished delegates that their statements will be limited to 6 minutes. For a better understanding of all and to facilitate the work of the interpreters, I also invite speakers to regulate their speaking speed. I make appeal again to my dear colleagues from the delegations to remember that our distinguished ministers can deliver a shorter form of the speech and the longer version will be displayed on the UNESCO and it will remain in the archives of the General Conference. I now have the honor to call the first speaker for this morning. So I'm pleased to invite His Excellency Mr. Azmi Mahafzah, Minister of Education and Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research of Jordan. Minister, you have the floor.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سعادة رئيس المؤتمر العام لليونسكو، سعادة رئيس المجلس التنفيذي، معالي السيدة أودري أوزلاي المدير العام لليونسكو، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، رؤساء وأعضاء الوفود، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنه لمن دواعي سروري أن أشارككم جلسة مناقشة السياسة العامة، وأن أعرب لكم عن تمنياتي لأعمال المؤتمر هذا بالتوفيق والوصول إلى نتائج تخدم هذه المنظمة في تحقيق أهدافها على الصعيد التربوي والعلمي والثقافي، وتعزز الأمن والسلام الدوليين. ما نعيشه اليوم في منطقتنا هو امتحان للقيم الإنسانية والأخلاقية والمبادئ التي تكرست في كنف هذه المنظمة العريقة. فما يعيشه الفلسطينيون من عنف وبؤس وقهر ومآس هو نتيجة لاحتلال طال أمده، ضارباً بعرض الحائط كل القوانين الدولية التي ينتهكها منذ أكثر من 75 عاماً بلا رادع ودون تحرك دولي فعال. ولا يزال المجتمع الدولي يتخذ من ازدواجية المعايير بوصلته للتعامل مع القضايا في منطقة الشرق الأوسط، وعلى رأسها القضية الفلسطينية. لقد قدمت الأردن بصفته رئيس المجموعة العربية في الجلسة الاستثنائية لمجلس الأمن في الأمم المتحدة مشروع قرار يتبنى هدنة إنسانية فورية ودائمة تفضي إلى وقف الأعمال العدائية بموجب القانون الدولي وتسهيل وصول الإمدادات الإنسانية لقطاع غزة. وقد صوتت 121 دولة لصالح هذا القرار، ومع ذلك استمرت إسرائيل بارتكاب جرائم حرب بقصفها المستمر للمدنيين، متخذة استراتيجية العقاب الجماعي. إن عدد ضحايا العدوان الغاشم على قطاع غزة في تزايد مضطرد، ويكفي أن تشاهدوا هواتفكم الذكية لمعرفة كم طفل قتل، كم امرأة قتلت، وكم صحفي تم قتله، وكم من المدارس والمنشآت التعليمية والمستشفيات تعرضت للتدمير الكامل أو أخرجت عن نطاق الخدمة، وكم من الممتلكات الثقافية والمساجد والكنائس التاريخية في القطاع دمرت بالكامل. سيدة الرئيس، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، لطالما اتسم الأردن في خطاباته بالإدراك والاستباقية لما يحدث على الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة على مدى العقود الماضية. ومن هذا المنبر يؤكد الأردن ويكرر بلا كلل أو ملل على أنه لا بديل للعمل متعدد الأطراف، فالتعددية والتسامح والحوار وفهم التنوع الديني والثقافي ضرورة لتحقيق السلام والوئام بين مختلف المجتمعات على كافة الأصعدة. ولا تقدم الإجراءات الأحادية حلولاً ولا تصنع تغييراً إيجابياً مستداماً. ومن هذا المنبر يكرر الأردن بأن الحل الأوحد لكي تنعم المنطقة بالأمن والسلام يتمثل بإقامة دولة فلسطينية مستقلة وعاصمتها القدس الشرقية على حدود 4 حزيران عام 1967. كما يدعو الأردن جميع الدول الأعضاء إلى اعتماد مشروع القرار الخاص بغزة، ويشكر جميع الدول التي تواصلت معنا وعبرت عن دعمها لمشروع القرار الذي سيناقش بعد ظهر هذا اليوم في لجنة العلاقات الخارجية، والذي يتسم بالاعتدال ويأتي ضمن نطاق عمل واختصاص اليونسكو. ويؤكد الأردن على ضرورة قيام اليونسكو بمهامها ضمن نطاق اختصاصها، مما سيساعد على إعادة الحياة إلى المؤسسات التعليمية وترميم الممتلكات الثقافية والحد من الخطر الذي يلاحق الصحفيين في القطاع. ويؤكد الأردن أيضاً على أهمية قيام اليونسكو بعملها في مجال الحفاظ على المواقع التراثية العالمية المدرجة على قوائمها، بناءً على التوافق على اعتماد قرار القدس وقرار المؤسسات التعليمية والثقافية في الأراضي العربية المحتلة. وحيث أن مدينة القدس القديمة وأسوارها جزء لا يتجزأ من هذه المواقع، وبحكم أنها مدينة مقدسة عند المسلمين والمسيحيين واليهود، يتوجب أن تكون مدينة سلام لا ساحة للاحتلال والظلم والحرمان، وتقع مسؤولية حماية هويتها وطابعها والوضع القانوني والتاريخي القائم فيها على عاتقنا جميعاً. ويؤكد وفد بلادي على أن مدينة القدس بمقدساتها الإسلامية والمسيحية تعتبر من أهم أولويات صاحب الجلالة الملك عبد الله الثاني بن الحسين بصفته صاحب الوصاية على المقدسات الإسلامية والمسيحية في مدينة القدس. السيدات والسادة، تعمل وزارة التربية والتعليم بالتعاون مع كافة الوزارات والمؤسسات العاملة في قطاع التعليم على متابعة وتنفيذ الهدف الرابع من أهداف التنمية المستدامة 2030، وغاياته، والذي يهدف إلى ضمان توفير تعليم جيد وعادل وشامل. وعلى الرغم من الإنجازات المتحققة خلال ال5 سنوات الأولى لانطلاقة أهداف التنمية المستدامة، إلا أن ما تعرض له العالم كله ونظامه التعليمي من تراجع ملموس يدعو إلى التكاتف العالمي كضرورة ملحة لاسترداد خسائر التعليم وإعادة تجديد الالتزام السياسي والمالي الدولي بالتعليم باعتباره منفعة عامة عالمية، وتسريع وتيرة التقدم نحو تحقيق الهدف الرابع من أهداف التنمية المستدامة. ولهذا جاءت قمة تحويل التعليم التي عقدت في نيويورك استجابة للأزمة العالمية في التعليم، ومن أجل الارتقاء به وحشد العمل والطموح والتضامن وإيجاد الحلول لتجاوز آثار خسائر التعليم المرتبطة بجائحة كورونا، واستجابة لتنفيذ إطار العمل الخاص بالتعليم من أجل التنمية المستدامة لعام 2030 التي اعتمدها المؤتمر العام لليونسكو في دورته ال40. عمل الأردن من خلال وزارة التربية والتعليم على تشكيل فريق وطني خاص بالمبادرات القطرية للتعليم من أجل التنمية المستدامة من جميع الوزارات والمؤسسات الوطنية لحشد الجهود الوطنية لتنفيذ البرامج والمشاريع التي من شأنها تسريع العمل على تحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة. يمتاز قطاع الثقافة في الأردن بالرعاية والمؤسسة، سواء كان التراث الثقافي الطبيعي أو المادي أو غير المادي والثقافة، وترتبط جميعها ببعضها البعض لتشكل صورة حضارية وهوية ثقافية مستدامة. وإذ نشكر منظمة اليونسكو على الدور الهام الذي تقوم به في مجالات الثقافة والعلوم والاتصال، لندعوها لاستكمال مسيرتها نحو مستقبل مشرق لمجتمعات العالم كافة في عالم يسوده السلام وتعزيز فرص الأمن وسبل العيش المشترك والمستدام. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Je voudrais inviter maintenant Son Excellence Madame Maria Toucon, ministre de l'Éducation nationale et de l'alphabétisation de Côte d'Ivoire.
Merci. Madame la Présidente de la Conférence générale, Madame la Présidente du Conseil exécutif, Madame la Directrice générale, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais avant tout propos vous exprimer la gratitude de Son Excellence Monsieur Alassane Ouattara, Président de la République de Côte d'Ivoire, pour l'opportunité que vous me donnez de prendre la parole en son nom et celui de son gouvernement pour exposer la voix de la Côte d'Ivoire à cette tribune dédiée à l'éducation, à la culture et aux sciences. En son nom, je voudrais également vous saluer et dire combien la Côte d'Ivoire, mon pays, se sent honorée de se prononcer sur des questions d'intérêt qui touchent la vie des Ivoiriens et du monde. Permettez-moi de féliciter Son Excellence Madame Simona Mirela Mikulescu pour son élection à la présidence de la 42e session de la Conférence générale de l'UNESCO et lui témoigner le soutien de la Côte d'Ivoire dans l'exercice de son mandat. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, nous voulons également mentionner le retour des États-Unis comme un acte important pour marquer la réconciliation des nations et le renforcement de notre organisation. Madame la Directrice générale, nous voulons relever votre leadership et votre sens de la diplomatie qui ont abouti à ce retour et nous espérons qu'il marque l'engagement de nos pays dans la voie de la paix, de la concertation et du dialogue. C'est ici pour moi le lieu de souligner le soutien constant de l'UNESCO aux peuples victimes des atrocités et des catastrophes à travers le monde, qu'elles soient naturelles ou la conséquence des guerres. Au titre des catastrophes naturelles, je voudrais noter les tremblements de terre au Royaume du Maroc, les inondations en Libye et les incendies dans les mines de charbon du Kazakhstan. Nous devons être également attentifs aux victimes du terrorisme qui sévit en Afrique, notamment en Afrique de l'Ouest. En ce qui concerne les guerres, je voudrais souligner les nombreuses victimes en Afrique, de la guerre civile au Soudan, en Europe, de la guerre en Ukraine, au Proche-Orient, de la guerre israélo-palestinienne. Tous ces faits nécessitent la mobilisation et le soutien de la communauté internationale. La Côte d'Ivoire, pays de l'hospitalité et de la fraternité, invite les belligérants et les différentes parties impliquées dans le conflit à privilégier le dialogue pour la résolution des différends qui les opposent. Nous souhaitons que la paix revienne partout où la violence a pris le dessus, afin que cessent les souffrances des peuples, surtout celles des enfants et des femmes. Madame la directrice générale, à travers les réformes que vous avez entreprises depuis votre arrivée à la tête de l'UNESCO, nous nous réjouissons de constater qu'elles portent leurs fruits, notamment la politique de la transformation stratégique. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le gouvernement ivoirien, par ma voix, voudrait exprimer son infinie reconnaissance à l'UNESCO pour l'organisation de la cérémonie de remise du prix UNESCO Félix Houphouët-Boigny pour la recherche de la paix 2023 à Madame Angela Merkel le 8 février 2023 à Yamoussoukro en Côte d'Ivoire. Je voudrais également traduire l'infinie gratitude du gouvernement ivoirien à la directrice générale de l'UNESCO pour l'appui et le soutien à notre pays lors des États généraux de l'éducation nationale et de l'alphabétisation. À cet effet, je voudrais rendre hommage à Madame Stefania Giannini, sous-directrice générale en charge de l'éducation, pour l'accompagnement dont nous avons été l'objet de sa part tout au long du processus des États généraux de l'éducation nationale et de l'alphabétisation, dont l'opérationnalisation est en cours. Par ailleurs, nous voudrions saluer l'initiative du Royaume du Maroc pour la mise en place de l'Alliance des commissions nationales et des villes apprenantes africaines. Nous fondons un espoir sur la création de l'Institut africain pour l'apprentissage tout au long de la vie. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, le biennome 2022-2023 qui s'achève aura été riche en activités en Côte d'Ivoire dans les domaines de compétences de l'UNESCO. Ainsi, lors de la Confintea 7, la Côte d'Ivoire a été cooptée au titre des pays francophones pour la phase expérimentale de la formation des alphabétiseurs par l'UNESCO. Le 8 septembre 2022, notre pays a accueilli pour la première fois de son histoire la célébration de la journée mondiale, de la journée internationale de l'alphabétisation qui était à la 56e édition par le biais de l'UNESCO. Avec le BIE et l'IIPE, de nombreuses initiatives ont été prises pour la révision des curricula et l'amélioration de la qualité de l'éducation en Côte d'Ivoire. Dans le domaine des sciences exactes et naturelles, un arrêté a été signé pour créer le Comité national Programme hydraulique intergouvernemental PIH. Ce texte est le fruit de la collaboration entre la Commission nationale ivoirienne pour l'UNESCO et le Bureau UNESCO d'Abidjan. Dans le domaine du programme des chaires, la Côte d'Ivoire s'est grée à l'UNESCO pour le renouvellement des accords des 3 premières chaires établies dans notre pays, ainsi que pour les 2 nouvelles chaires ouvertes récemment, l'une dans le domaine de la prospective et l'autre de la ville durable. En ce qui concerne le secteur de la culture, l'ONG ivoirienne Afridoc a bénéficié en février 2023 du 13e appel du Fonds international pour la diversité. L'UNESCO appuie la Côte d'Ivoire dans l'actualisation du plan de gestion et de conservation ainsi que la stratégie du plan de gestion des risques et catastrophes de la ville historique de Grand Bassam. La Côte d'Ivoire est aussi reconnaissante pour le fonds du programme UNESCO Ashberg dans le cadre du renforcement des avantages sociaux et économiques en faveur des artistes créateurs. Dans le cadre de l'organisation de la Coupe d'Afrique des Nations, prévue en janvier 2024, la Côte d'Ivoire bénéficie de l'accompagnement de l'UNESCO dans l'élaboration de la conception d'une stratégie du sport et de la priorité Afrique. Madame la Présidente de la Conférence générale, Madame la Présidente du Conseil exécutif, Mesdames et Messieurs, je voudrais saisir l'occasion de cette tribune pour dire que pour l'année 2024, la Côte d'Ivoire a en perspective de voir inscrit sur la liste du patrimoine mondial le parc national des îles Éotilées. Il en est de même de l'inscription sur la liste du patrimoine culturel immatériel de l'humanité des savoir-faire traditionnels liés à la fabrication de l'attiéké pour l'année 2024. Nous souhaitons l'inscription des savoir-faire traditionnels liés au tissage du pagne en Côte d'Ivoire à la 18e session du Comité intergouvernemental de sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel. Pour terminer, je voudrais réitérer les remerciements de la Côte d'Ivoire pour tous les efforts déployés en faveur de notre pays. Toutes ces actions montrent l'engagement de la Côte d'Ivoire sous le leadership de son Excellence, M. Alassane Ouattara, dans la promotion des idéaux et programmes de l'UNESCO. Nous nous réjouissons de la bonne coopération qui existe entre notre organisation commune et la Côte d'Ivoire. Pour le nouveau biennium, nous souhaitons une plus grande solidarité entre les États membres et un renforcement de notre coopération. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Madame la Ministre. Et maintenant, je voudrais inviter, and I will switch to English, I would like to invite to the floor Her Excellency Ms. Angie Motshekga, Minister of Basic Education of South Africa.
Thank you very much, Madam President, the Director General, the Chair of the Executive Board, Excellencies, colleagues and friends. Chair, whilst UNESCO aims to promote world peace and security through international cooperation in education, arts and culture, we're witnessing sustained conflicts between Russia and Ukraine, and South Africa, along its peer African nations, continue to implore these nations to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. And more recently, we have seen a devastating escalation of the Israel-Palestine conflict, which requires urgent de-escalation. The loss of life and livelihoods is heartbreaking, it's grievous, and is unnecessary. It also underscores the urgent need for the resumption of peace talks leading to a two-state solution as anticipated in the Oslo Accord, where Palestine and Israel can coexist justly and in peace. Madam President, as we look back over the past 2 years, there are several important initiatives that demonstrate excellent cooperation between UNESCO and our country, which brings us immense pride and joy. To illustrate, we have completed the Stampede transboundary aquifer system through the International Hydrological Program. Our draft resolution on groundwater was adopted during the 215th session of the Executive Board with 68 co-sponsors. Our collaboration with the regional offices Southern Africa on the global initiative on the implementation and recommendations of ethics on artificial intelligence, the designation of the new UNESCO Creative Cities, which is Buffalo City in our country and Umgeni Howick. We also hosted an inaugural Transforming Mentally Summit in our region, and we host Africa World Heritage Fund C2C with the support of so many partners here today, which does crucial work in promoting the conservation of African culture and natural site. Madam President, South Africa did host the Open Science Platform in Cape Town, which was established in 2017, which is a cutting edge on data-intensive scientific stimulation and collaboration. We want to commend UNESCO for setting up the Open Science Steering Committee. However, we believe much more needs to be done to support developing nations to implement the recommendations. The recent SDG summit held during the high-level week of the UN General Assembly did confirm the urgent need for transformative actions to ensure that we meet the SDG goals in the next 7 years as the UN organizations mandated to achieve SDG 4. UNESCO's role in supporting, again, developing countries in achieving their educational needs is vital. Chair, I was honored to have been nominated to the International Teacher Task Force, which has a critical role in ensuring that we meet our SDG obligations, particularly with regards to our teacher supply targets. It is for this reason that we will partner with the Teacher Transformation Forum to host the 14th Policy Dialogue Forum next day in our country with the theme addressing teacher shortages and making the profession attractive. As South Africa, we do recognize the power of culture as a driver of sustainable development, which contributes to fostering social inclusion and developing a strong and viable economic sector. And we amplify our support for the Mondicult 2022 that affirms that culture is a global public good and recognize the need to strengthen instruments and mechanisms that analyze, monitor, and measure the impact of culture on sustainable development. We also want to commend UNESCO for its continued effort to implement the flagship program 3 within Priority Africa and the positive outcomes of the extended 45th session of the World Heritage Site, where 8 new African sites were listed in the World Heritage List, including the listing of the sites of memory as of particular importance for Africa, and highlights the need for the 1972 Convention on World Heritage. So, Madam President, we do welcome the return of the United States of America to UNESCO, which deepens multilateralism. In conclusion, Madam President, we, as a country, are putting forward our candidate for the position of external auditor, which we are proud to state is aligned with the 2 priorities of UNESCO, namely Priority Africa and gender equality. Furthermore, our candidate, Madam Chair, is strong because our Auditor General has wide-ranging international experience with UN agencies and organizations. She is recognized for her independence, she is recognized for high standards and expertise, and an integrated approach to audit which is offered. Her skills include combining financial compliance and performance audit. Therefore, we'll be highly grateful and appreciative and be honored to achieve the support of member states during the election of the General Assembly. With that, Madam Speaker, we really want to thank you very much for the opportunity to present our statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Notre prochain orateur est Son Excellence Professeur Majesté Iou Ateba, ministre de l'Enseignement supérieur et de la Recherche du Togo.
Bonjour. Madame la Présidente de la session présente, Madame la Directrice Générale de l'UNESCO, Mesdames et Messieurs les panélistes, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et chefs de délégation, Mesdames et Messieurs les ambassadeurs, chères autorités en vos grades et titres respectés. Je voudrais, à l'entame de mes propos, au nom du gouvernement togolais que j'ai l'insigne honneur de représenter, et particulièrement au nom du président de la République du Togo, le président Faure Essonzina Gnassingbé, me réjouir du retour des États-Unis dans notre organisation commune, ce qui consacre la volonté de cet État à œuvrer chaque jour à la paix et aussi à la recherche de la synergie au niveau mondial. Je voudrais également remercier et féliciter Madame la Directrice Générale pour le travail qu'elle mène chaque jour pour permettre une cohésion à l'intérieur, donc à la tête de cette organisation qui prône essentiellement les sciences et la culture. Je voudrais également remercier notre organisation qui place une fois encore sa confiance en mon pays, le Togo, en lui permettant de diriger donc la convention d'Addis sur la reconnaissance et la qualification des diplômes. Le gouvernement togolais, il y a 3 ans, pour régler les problèmes liés donc à l'épanouissement des populations, s'est doté de 42 programmes et réformes, dont 2 essentiellement consacrés à l'éducation. Il s'agit donc de la politique de révision des réformes orientées vers la promotion des métiers prioritaires et aussi l'amélioration de la qualité de l'enseignement. Ceci pour nous représente un défi, un challenge important, parce que pendant longtemps, on a eu à former de façon générique sans véritablement toucher du doigt les enjeux de demain. Et ceci a amené donc le gouvernement à mettre en place un programme prioritaire et donc un schéma de déploiement des programmes prioritaires. Il s'agit pour le Togo de faire le diagnostic désormais des secteurs porteurs, des secteurs qui permettent rapidement aux récipiendaires, donc des diplômés, de s'insérer rapidement et durablement sur le marché de l'emploi. Il faut également, dans cette stratégie, que nous puissions faire le diagnostic des métiers en tension et aussi nous préparer pour la révision curriculaire pour créer des formations à des métiers prioritaires. Nous n'allons pas seulement travailler sur la mise en place des métiers prioritaires, mais aussi travailler sur les métiers prioritaires du futur. Parce que pendant longtemps, nos pays africains, notamment dont le Togo, nous avions été suffisamment en retard dans les défis et les challenges du passé. Pour nous, il est désormais important que nous puissions travailler pour que nous relevions les défis de demain. Les défis de demain, nous les connaissons, c'est les questions énergétiques, c'est les questions alimentaires, c'est les questions sécuritaires, c'est les questions liées au digital, c'est les questions liées tout simplement à la qualité de l'enseignement. Et pour cela, le gouvernement togolais, le 17 novembre, va lancer un important programme qui va permettre, une fois les domaines prioritaires identifiés, faire donc ce grand lancement des formations qui permettra au Togo de se doter de façon significative des hommes de demain qui permettront de relever les défis auxquels nous sommes confrontés. Le gouvernement togolais travaille également dans la recherche du bien-être quotidien des jeunes apprenants, en rendant gratuite l'éducation dans le pré-université, avant l'université, et aussi en mettant en place tous les outils qui permettent aux jeunes élèves de pouvoir étudier dans de bonnes conditions. Nous avions donc mis en place le programme Scolassure, qui est un programme d'assurance pour les élèves, et aussi un programme sur l'alimentation des élèves à l'école, que nous avons donc appelé les cantines scolaires. Voilà en substance les grandes actions que le gouvernement togolais, avec à sa tête le président de la République, mène chaque jour pour permettre aux élèves et aux étudiants au Togo de pouvoir travailler dans de bonnes conditions. Je rappelle ici également que le Togo fait partie des pays encore en Afrique où, une fois l'étudiant arrivé à l'université, bénéficie automatiquement des bourses d'études et aussi de l'accompagnement financier. Ça lui permet tout simplement d'être dans de bonnes conditions. Et nous avons également des programmes de mise à disposition des étudiants, des ordinateurs qui leur permettent de pouvoir travailler dans de très bonnes conditions. En marge de cela, notre sous-région ouest-africaine est confrontée à un problème sécuritaire. Ce problème sécuritaire avec les attaques terroristes que nous subissons sont quelquefois des freins à l'épanouissement de nos populations et au déroulement correct de nos programmes de développement. Un des secteurs qui est fortement touché par ces problèmes sécuritaires, c'est le secteur de la culture, le secteur de l'hôtellerie. Le Togo donc travaille d'acharnement avec les pays de la sous-région pour créer un cadre sécuritaire qui lui permette évidemment de contrer ces menaces et permettre aussi à ce que nous puissions nous sentir dans les meilleures conditions de travail et d'épanouissement. Ainsi donc, le Togo, par ma voix, réaffirme une fois encore sa disponibilité à travailler aux côtés de l'UNESCO, aux côtés de tous les États donc, qui prônent les sciences et la culture, pour que nous puissions ensemble, dans une convention, je dirais dans une vision commune, travailler pour le bien-être de l'humanité. Je finis en vous disant une fois encore merci et félicitations, particulièrement à Madame la Directrice Générale, pour les travaux que vous menez chaque jour, votre intelligence que vous mettez à disposition de l'humanité pour que nous puissions nous retrouver et parler de notre avenir commun sur cette planète. Merci à vous et très bonne session à tous les participants. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. Je voudrais maintenant inviter Son Excellence Monsieur Justin Valentin, ministre de l'Éducation des Seychelles.
Madam President, Madam Director General, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Seychelles government, in particular, His Excellency President Wever Rankalawan, I would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to the Director General of UNESCO for her leadership of the organization and support we are getting. We are also grateful to the support we are receiving from the various UN and UNESCO regional officers. Madam President, my country strongly espouses and subscribes to the major policy directions of UNESCO. Through this intervention, I wish to report on our major achievement over the last 2 years. Firstly, the Seychelles Institute for Early Childhood Development is now officially a UNESCO Category 2 center and is now able to assist UNESCO in the implementation of the SDG 4.2 on ECCE across the globe. Secondly, in December 2021, the Seychelles Mucha dance was inscribed on the UNESCO list of cultural heritage, giving our local dance a global resonance. Thirdly, Seychelles continues to promote the Sustainable Development Agenda. This year, we celebrated 30 years of our Eco-School project. Climate change is now a cross-cutting theme in our school curriculum as well as at the University of Seychelles. Several youth NGOs are managing sustainable development projects. Aldabra, another UNESCO World Heritage, is in the good hands of our young generation. We will participate in the ESB Net 2030 Global Meeting in Japan in December this year to share our experience. Fourthly, since 2021, we have been commemorating the International Day of Education, which is celebrated on the 24th January. We aspire to transform education, thus ensuring that the fundamental human right is preserved and made accessible to all individuals in the most relevant and updated manner. Furthermore, Seychelles subscribes to the UNESCO philosophy of putting the teachers and the students at the core of decision-making. We have established a formal teacher voice forum in the state school. Over the past 2 years, we have been holding an annual teacher convention. In September this year, I convened the first ever Youth Education Summit, which resulted in the creation of the Youth Education Council. We are working on the formalization of the Council. Since March 2023, Seychelles has embarked on the Ethics Education Project, which falls under the Global Citizenship Education SDG 4.7. The project, which is widely supported by local politicians and religious leaders, is being piloted in 20 state schools. We participate in the ECCE conference in Tashkent, Uzbekistan in November 2022, and we are now partnering with UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Peace and Sustainable Development to bring neuroscience and socio-emotional learning to our show. We have made significant progress in technology integration in education. Since 2021, the strategic direction is that ICT and OER are integrated into teaching and learning and policy development. We are grateful to the support that we are getting from Commonwealth of Learning in this quest. UNESCO financial support has also benefited our cultural sector. We have projects about copyright and status of artists supported by the Ashberg program, and another one in invigorating and reestablishing culture in our socio-economic development supported by the International Fund for Cultural Diversity. Cependant, de nombreux projets restent à faire, notamment la bonification de notre système de collecte et d'analyse de données en vue d'une modernisation de modèles et de gestion et d'élaboration de politiques éducatives. Un programme d'éducation technique et vocationnelle plus efficace, un cadre de formation continue pour le développement des compétences de ressources enseignantes et finalement une culture et une vision éducative durable et efficace. La bonne nouvelle, c'est que nous avons un plan d'action stratégique. Madame la Présidente, lors de la 41e conférence, j'ai lancé un appel à une plus grande collaboration entre le pays Sud-Sud. Aujourd'hui, je suis heureux d'annoncer que les Seychelles et l'Afrique du Sud ont commencé à s'aventurer ensemble dans l'éducation de la petite enfance. Nous espérons développer très prochainement d'autres collaborations dans les domaines de STEM ou de l'enseignement supérieur, secteur dans lequel l'Afrique du Sud compte de nombreuses belles réalisations. J'ai conclu en lançant davantage d'appels en faveur d'une collaboration entre les pays francophones et en faveur d'un nouvel élan à l'intégration nationale. Merci pour votre attention. Je vous souhaite une bonne journée.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. May I now invite to the floor His Excellency Mr. Yao Osei Adutum, Minister of Education of Ghana.
President of the General Conference, Chairperson of the Executive Board, Director General UNESCO, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to address the 42nd General Conference of UNESCO. At the outset, the Ghana delegation congratulates you, Madam Simona Mirela Mikulescu, on your election as the chairperson of the General Conference. I have no doubt that your extensive experience and wealth of knowledge will enrich and benefit UNESCO. Be assured, Madam Chairperson, of Ghana's support, and we wish you a successful tenure of office. Madam Chairperson, in the past 2 years since the last General Conference of UNESCO, the world has gone through tumultuous upheavals and seen the resurgence of age-old conflicts, as well as natural disasters, resulting in some of the worst humanitarian crises ever in human history. We're also witnessing several forms of discrimination in an ever-increasing polarized and fragmented world. The mandate of UNESCO to build peace in the minds of people through the transforming power of education, science, culture, and communication remains as relevant as ever. Seeking lasting peace is a prerequisite for sustainable and inclusive development and an aspiration we all share. Through the implementation of key strategies and initiatives, my government is driving educational transformation by making inclusive, accessible, and quality education the bedrock of our national development. Ghana's current school curriculum and overall education system have been oriented to suit the changing demands of the 21st century. We have placed education for sustainable development and global citizenship as one of our educational transformation agenda. We are deepening efforts and partnerships in greening education in line with our commitments at the Transforming Education Summit, while building capacity in climate change education. In this regard, priority has been given to the teaching profession and to equipping teachers with 21st century skills to train the next generation. It therefore came as no surprise when a Ghanaian teacher emerged as one of the 10 finalists for the Global Teacher Prize announced 2 days ago. Ghana is expediting action to fully implement the government's pledge to spend at least 23% of our national budget towards development of education in the country. This will ensure that our colleges of education are well equipped and relevant nationally and internationally through research, innovation, high-quality teaching, and learning that is ICT-driven. Madam Chairperson, we in Ghana believe in harnessing the potential of new and emerging technologies in this fourth industrial revolution for our national development. We consider technology an asset for social inclusiveness and equitable development for all. Through the development of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education in Ghana, we are equipping our youth with essential skills, and we are also positioning the nation to compete in the global landscape of innovation and technology. To this end, Ghana has developed an SCI for SDGs roadmap to accelerate the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals through the application of STI. The establishment of a new Category 1 institute in China to support member states' efforts in advancing STI and STEM education is therefore opportune, as it's imperative that we harness the best of technology for sustainable national development. In that context, UNESCO's recent AI Needs Assessment Survey in African countries and the recommendation of the ethics of AI are critical in bridging the digital gap in our region and, for that matter, in Ghana. Madam Chairperson, I wish to thank all member states and the Secretariat for their support over the last 8 years of Ghana's stewardship at the Executive Board. My country will continue to contribute its quota to the work of our organization through the various subsidiary bodies that we seek election to at this 42nd General Conference. and we count on the valuable support of all. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I take a particular pleasure, I have to confess, to invite to the floor His Excellency Sheikh Salem Al-Qasimi, Minister of Culture and Youth of the United Arab Emirates. Minister, you have the floor.
Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Chairperson of the Executive Board, Madam Director General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, ambitious and transformative action is needed more than ever to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and to realize our shared aspirations at UNESCO in lifting the populations that we serve. We are only 7 years away from 2030, and to secure a sustainable future for our planet, we must tackle the climate crisis. The UAE is proud to be hosting COP28. The UNESCO Executive Board also adopted a resolution submitted by the UAE in its last session on strengthening the role of culture and education for climate action and resilience. This resolution called for climate action to consider the cultural and natural heritage of humanity, as well as the need to meaningfully engage youth, cultural professionals, and educators. The UAE remains committed to implementing UNESCO's Greening Education Partnership and will host the first ever Greening Education Hub at COP28. Moreover, we recognize that the urgent climate change mitigation and adaptation needed to achieve the Paris Agreement goals will require unprecedented inclusivity and collaboration across all sectors. We are not just facing an environmental, financial, and scientific challenge, but a cultural one as well. As such, we intend to launch a group of friends of culture-based climate action at the UNFCCC, bringing together a coalition of UN member states and stakeholders with the aim to ensure the integration of culture as a main pillar of the UNFCCC for lasting impact. We invite all member states to join us in this group of friends, making a historic shift in climate policy ahead of COP28 and beyond. Dear colleagues, just as we endeavor to ensure that all learners are equipped for environmental sustainability, we must also ensure that they are equipped for the digital age that we live in today. As such, we have proposed an item on the proclamation of the World Coding Day to be celebrated on the 29th of October. Moreover, with the aim of supporting this digital transformation of education, the UAE has also proposed an item to proclaim International Day for Digital Learning on the 19th of March. Also put forth on the General Conference agenda is the UAE's proposal for the 100th anniversary celebration of the birth of Sultan bin Ali Al Uwais in 2025, a renowned Emirati poet, writer, and cultural icon. Dear colleagues, we continue to see the power of culture and heritage and the call for its protection at all local, regional, and global levels. We reaffirm our commitment to UNESCO-UAE partnership on the Revive the Spirit of Mosul project, where Al-Nouri Mosque, Al-Tahira Church, and the Sa'a Church are being brought back to life. As we approach the 6th anniversary of the project, the mosque in its final construction phase with over 2,600 jobs created for Iraqis. The UAE's commitment to preserving and safeguarding heritage is also embodied with our partnerships with the Africa World Heritage Fund and the Elif Foundation to launch a dedicated fund for which work to safeguard and document invaluable heritage across Africa. Dear colleagues, we have seen the importance of synergies across sectors, particularly between culture and education. It is my pleasure to invite you all to the UNESCO World Conference on Culture and arts education to be held next year from February 13th to 15th in Abu Dhabi, bringing together key stakeholders to reshape policy direction and formulate new ideas to strengthen culture and arts education for future generations. Dear colleagues, we stand by UNESCO's mission in building peace through education, culture, and sciences across the world. And this includes in our region, where we continue to see the regrettable crisis in Gaza unfold. The UAE reaffirms the need for an immediate ceasefire to prevent further loss of life, stressing the importance of protecting civilians according to international law, including international treaties, and the need to ensure that they are not targeted during war, which affects every aspect of the delivery of UNESCO's mandate. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to contributing to an efficient and effective UNESCO for global solutions. Today, let's remember our mandate to build a prosperous and bright future for all humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. J'ai le grand plaisir d'inviter maintenant Son Excellence, Monsieur Sergiu Prodan, Ministru de la Cultură de la République de Moldova. Ce plăcere reală, domnule ministru.
Merci beaucoup. Madame la Présidente de la Conférence Générale, Madame la Présidente du Conseil exécutif, Madame la Directrice Générale, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs. Tout d'abord, je voudrais féliciter Madame la Présidente de la Conférence Générale, Simona Mirela Miculescu, pour son élection et lui transmettre nos sentiments d'appréciation et de soutien. C'est un moment de fierté car la République de Moldova et la Roumanie partagent une relation basée sur la communauté historique, linguistique et culturelle. Félicitări, doamna președinte. Nous saluons aussi le retour des États-Unis d'Amérique à l'UNESCO, qui constitue un message fort quant à l'importance et à l'impact du travail continu que chacun d'entre nous investit dans cette organisation. Chers collègues, dans une période marquée par l'incertitude, la mission de l'UNESCO de forger une culture de la paix et de la coopération internationale est plus que jamais d'actualité. Cependant, au moment où nous parlons, notre monde est au carrefour de multiples crises. Premièrement, car l'agression injustifiée et non provoquée de la Russie contre notre pays voisin, l'Ukraine, a ramené la guerre sur le continent européen. Nous réitérons notre fort appel au retrait des troupes russes de l'Ukraine, ainsi qu'au respect de la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale de notre pays. Nous soutenons le résultat concret de mesures d'urgence de l'UNESCO pour l'Ukraine et tout le soutien nécessaire à la reconstruction d'après la guerre. Deuxièmement, le récent développement au Moyen-Orient perturbe le contexte régional et mondial. Nous condamnons les attaques terroristes contre l'Israël et nous exigeons la libération inconditionnelle de tous les otages. Nous sommes également préoccupés par la situation humanitaire à Gaza. Dans ce temps d'incertitude, il est impératif de comprendre à quel point nous pouvons adapter l'UNESCO à de nouveaux enjeux pour stimuler l'innovation, promouvoir la diversité culturelle et renforcer l'accès à l'éducation dans le but de construire un monde plus juste, inclusif et durable. Dans ce contexte, nous apprécions les efforts de secrétariat et le travail du comité intergouvernemental spécial sur la révision de la recommandation de 1974 sur l'éducation pour la compréhension, la coopération et la paix internationale et l'éducation aux droits de l'homme et aux libertés fondamentales. Cette recommandation historique et emblématique nous offre une feuille de route précise sur la manière dont l'éducation devrait évoluer au XXIe siècle, en vue de favoriser la paix, de réaffirmer les droits de l'homme et de promouvoir le développement durable face aux menaces et aux défis de notre époque. Nous parlons aujourd'hui de l'accent à mettre sur l'éducation numérique. Afin de créer un environnement favorable au développement de la créativité, nous fructifions les résultats des projets déjà mis en œuvre avec le soutien de l'UNESCO en République de Moldova. Il s'agit notamment de projets de transformation numérique des industries créatives et culturelles réalisés avec le soutien précieux de nos partenaires, à qui nous souhaitons renouveler notre gratitude. Dans le même esprit, la République de Moldova est en train de finaliser le programme national pour le développement des industries créatives, à travers lequel nous visons à soutenir, encourager et développer les industries créatives basées sur l'expérience des pays membres de l'Union européenne et les recommandations de l'UNESCO. À l'occasion du 20e anniversaire de la Convention pour la sauvegarde du patrimoine culturel immatériel marquée cette année, nous réaffirmons notre disponibilité à travailler avec l'UNESCO sur une autre priorité stratégique pour nous, le patrimoine culturel. Je tiens à mentionner dans ce contexte que l'année dernière, conjointement avec la Roumanie, un quatrième élément important pour nous a été inclus dans la liste représentative du patrimoine culturel immatériel de l'humanité, l'art de la blouse roumaine. De plus, au mois de juillet cette année, la République de Moldova a approuvé le règlement sur la circulation des biens culturels et a créé le service de circulation et d'enregistrement de biens meubles culturels, marquant notre engagement en faveur de la réforme du système conformément aux normes européennes. Mesdames et messieurs, il y a 2 jours, la Communauté européenne a recommandé aux pays membres le début de négociations d'adhésion à l'Union européenne avec la République de Moldova. C'est une nouvelle que mon pays a reçue avec une grande joie et qui nous rend encore plus confiants en notre avenir européen. Une décision qui n'est pas seulement un succès diplomatique, mais qui aussi représente la victoire de notre esprit libre qui a choisi de vivre en paix et en prospérité au sein de la famille européenne. Je vous remercie pour votre attention. Merci.
Mulțumim frumos, domnule ministru. And now I have the pleasure to invite to take the floor Her Excellency Ms. Bisera Kostadinovska-Stoichevska, Minister of Culture of North Macedonia.
Thank you. Dear President of the General Conference, dear Director General of UNESCO, dear Chairperson of the Executive Board, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. In anticipation of the 78th year since the birth of UNESCO, whose mission is to build a culture of peace and an intercultural dialogue, I'm convinced that right here and now, the right place should meet the right time for a real conversation. Because the world needs a general rethinking like never before. The 3rd decade of the 21st century started with stay at home, stay alive. We stayed alive, took off our masks, and realized that the new normal has brutally changed our lives. Both alienation and apathy have reached pandemic proportions, and we had high hopes to get the best of us as a moral of the lesson called COVID-19. In the 3rd year of the 3rd decade of the 21st century, the world is frighteningly close to the abyss. How did we get to the edge? Instead of dialogue of civilizations, survival of civilizations. 2 wars are happening before our eyes, and no one can foresee their course, let alone their outcome. News of new warhead carriers that can instantly change the world as we know it is not fake news, unfortunately. Climate change is no longer a phenomenon. Unfortunately, it is already a daily weather forecast. Digital transformation of societies, intended as a tool for relief, unfortunately has become another addiction that causes both physical and emotional problems in people. Regrettably, both illiteracy and difficult communication among the young generation. It was a movie, and today it is our reality. Artificial intelligence that causes fear even for those who create it, so they say. It will be a magic genie which grants you any wish and has no limits. There will be no limits to 3 wishes and similar nonsense, which is both good and bad. One of the challenges in the future will be how to find the meaning of life. I extend this quote with my own question. Are we opening Aladdin's lamp or Pandora's box? These are appeals to sign artificial intelligence control treaties according to the example of nuclear arms control treaties. And what treaty of this type is still valid if fear is not the greatest guardian? Respected, none of this is a record of our existence. This is the signature of our extinction. Even the most beautiful pen has bad handwriting in the wrong hands. Therefore, as never before, we need unity of good people and the voice of reasonable people. And this is where I recognize the strength and the magnitude of UNESCO's mission. This treasury of the most beautiful things created by nature and man has the authority, the right, and the duty to mobilize under the protection of its noble mission. My country has the blessing called the Ohrid region, which 44 years ago was added by UNESCO on the prestigious list as one of the 36 world cultural and natural properties of outstanding universal value. However, faced with the fact that this prestigious status is under serious threat, both due to natural laws and climate change, as well as due to human carelessness and recklessness, the government, to which I am the Minister of Culture, seriously heard UNESCO's alarm and launched a specific comprehensive action. The World Heritage Committee recognized and accepted our efforts, as well as the joint efforts with the Republic of Albania, to preserve Ohrid's beauty. The Macedonian and Albanian expert teams together prepared a strategic plan for the rehabilitation of the natural and cultural heritage of the Ohrid region with an action plan. This endeavor of ours was highly valued by the committee and interpreted as a confirmation of our sincere intentions to preserve the status and readiness to work at home, as well as for intensive cooperation with UNESCO. Although in my region, many associate UNESCO's role only with the prestigious status of the Ohrid region, today I would like to remind you that the monumental church from the 12th century, St. Georgi from Kurbinovo, is also included in UNESCO's tentative list. The undertaking for its restoration and conservation is nearing completion. It is a special pearl whose monumental value is in its interior, same as the inner beauty of some people, something that humanity needs like never before. In anticipation of the 78th year since the birth of UNESCO, whose mission is to build a culture of peace and intercultural dialogue, I am convinced that right here and right now, the right place meets the right time for a real conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister. Allow me to invite now to the floor Her Excellency Xiomara Maduro, Minister of Finance and Culture of Aruba.
President of the General Conference, Chairman of the Executive Board, Director General, respected colleagues, distinguished delegates and partners, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, on behalf of the government of Aruba, I congratulate you on being chosen to preside over the 42nd session of the General Conference of UNESCO. It is an honor to be here today as a representative of Aruba. As part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we uphold a common framework where in Aruba, as well, human rights are safeguarded and academic principles and freedoms are respected. We are a unique island. You can see us as a small island developing state, SIDS, or as a large ocean state. We have our own regional challenges and priorities, but I believe that our shared dedication to UNESCO's ideals allow us to share our ambitions, knowledge, and craft solutions that benefit our communities. Madam President, with satisfaction, I can say that we have 4 schools that became members of the UNESCO Associated School Network since UNESCO's last General Conference. Our local ASP network received an extra boost from successfully implementing a project financed by the UNESCO Participation Project. The government of Aruba reaffirms its commitment to SDG 4. Also, our mother tongue, Papiamento, is an essential part of the so-called mother tongue-based multilingual education. When it comes to understanding the ocean and its related process in the greater Caribbean region, Aruba, as it sits with a substantial economic exclusive zone, has a unique perspective. We see firsthand the vital importance of comprehending the complexities of our seas. We are actively engaged in IOCARIBE's work, and we are proud to chair the board of IOCARIBE. Aruba also works with the Netherlands to institute a Kingdom National Ocean Decade Commission. IOCARIBE's programs and initiatives are making a significant impact in our region, aiding us in addressing the challenges that its face. Support for IOCARIBE is essential for the sustainable management of our oceans. Madam President, Aruba tourism industry has recovered quickly since the pandemic, thanks to the hard work of many stakeholders, including the government, the private sector, NGOs, and the civil society at large. However, this recovery also poses risk to the sustainability of our cultural and natural heritage. It is important to mitigate these risks to protect our heritage with particular focus on cultural education. Within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we have a close cooperation in the field of culture based mainly on the UNESCO's cultural program and agreements made at Mondial Côte 2022. Aruba understands the power of artificial intelligence to modernize and preserve our rich documentary heritage. This makes our heritage accessible to everyone to enjoy, learn from, and study. Aruba is actively involved in the Memory of the World program and is proud to have an Aruban expert as the chair of the program's Latin America and Caribbean Committee. We are also working to shape UNESCO's communication and information objectives into our local context, with special regards for proper ethics in this matter. We are grateful for the participation program and are trying to align our local priorities with this program. Finally, a significant aspect of our engagement lies in meaningful youth participation. By actively participating at the ministerial level and with a youth representative in this year's Youth Forum, we hope to be able to listen firsthand to the challenges and solutions presented by the youth, both from our region and globally. To conclude, I would like to express my gratitude in the most spoken languages on the island of Aruba. Masha danki. Dank u wel. Muchas gracias. Thank you and merci beaucoup.
Mashada. Thank you, Ms. Minister. And let me invite now to the floor His Excellency Mr. David Andrew, Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture of Grenada.
Madam President of the General Conference, Chair of the Executive Board, Director General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, I congratulate you on your election as President of the 42nd session of the General Conference and assure you that Grenada is committed to working with you. I wish you every success during your presidency. I am honored today to address the 42nd session of the General Conference and assure you of UNESCO, I beg your pardon. I am honored today to address the 42nd session of the General Conference of UNESCO on behalf of the government and people of Grenada. First, allow me to extend a warm welcome to the United States on their return to UNESCO and acknowledge their valuable support for the organization. Their re-engagement signals a reinvigoration of the Global Alliance for Peace and Sustainable Development. Today, I would like to highlight our commitment to the ideals and principles of UNESCO. As a small island developing state, Grenada recognizes the importance of multilateral systems like UNESCO that are valuable to the attainment of sustainable development. Madam President, while SIDS have made advances towards achieving sustainable development, we cannot overemphasize the vulnerabilities of this esteemed House. Many of us face these unique social, economic, and environmental vulnerabilities. One hurricane, flood, or pandemic can mean that our progress towards achieving sustainable development, towards ensuring that our children can attend school, or that our hospitals can provide basic health care, can be significantly hampered, decelerating our efforts in securing what we believe are basic human needs for our people. We therefore welcome the 2023 to 29 UNESCO operational strategy for small island developing states, including the proposals for SIDS accelerator programs and the related partnership and resource mobilization plan. We look forward to its implementation. Education is the cornerstone of progress, and it is our duty as members of UNESCO to ensure access to quality education for all. In this regard, Grenada, through its national transformational agenda, has made remarkable strides in expanding educational opportunities. We recognize that technical vocational education and training is a key driver of our transformation, economic growth, and sustainable development. We have expanded our TVET programs to include skills in all primary schools, as we believe that this is important to introduce a diverse curriculum at an early stage in the child's development. We are also implementing our TVET strategy to create centers of excellence for specific technical areas. We have introduced a free tuition policy for all students up to community college and post-secondary levels. Further, we are reviewing our curriculum to expand our skills programs, making them more relevant to our workforce needs, and thus improving employability and self-reliance. Regarding the 42nd C5 program and budget, we commend the Director General for her diligent efforts to allocate resources effectively and efficiently. We believe that the 42nd C5 aligns well with our vision of harnessing the power of education, science, culture, information, and communication to address global challenges. Grenada supports the 3 phases of the roadmap presented for building on the International Year of the Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021 through consolidated action. In just over a year, we have been able to launch the Office of Creative Affairs, host a major 3-day symposium for creatives, and introduce courses of study like business law for creatives. We look forward to the implementation, as the creative economy is a vital component of our global identity and economic growth. Grenada has a rich and diverse cultural heritage that we are dedicated to preserving and promoting. We have continued to invest in the preservation of our cultural heritage, including historical sites, traditional practices, and art forms. These efforts ensure that our culture remains a source of pride and identity for our people. We have recently completed an intangible cultural heritage project called Proud of My Heritage, Transmission and Safeguarding of Intangible Cultural Heritage in Grenada, through inventorying and education initiatives. And we have seen continuing work at the community level in documenting and showcasing culture, which is testament to the success of the project. Grenada is proud to announce that one of our intangible cultural heritage, traditional wooden boat building in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, our sister islands, has been recommended for inscription in the representative list of intangible cultural heritage for humanity, a proud moment for Grenada. Grenada values the continued action of the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, IOC, for building resilience to ocean-related hazards, addressing emergencies situations, and coordinating the UN Decade for Ocean Science. We look forward to strengthening of the UNESCO Regional Office for Caribbean, which serves over 15 small island developing states, with adequate staff and resources, which will allow for effective and efficient implementation of UNESCO's programs on a regional and national level, adequately responding to member states' needs. In conclusion, Madam President, our commitment to UNESCO's mission and value remains unwavering. We fully support the organization's global goals in achieving objectives of peace, development, and well-being of all people through education, science, culture, information, and communication. We look forward to collaborating with our fellow member states in the pursuit of a brighter, more sustainable future for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. Notre orateur suivant est Son Excellence Monsieur Youssouf Takidine, ministre de l'Éducation des Comores.
Madame la Présidente de la Conférence Générale, Madame la Présidente du Conseil exécutif, Madame la Directrice Générale de l'UNESCO, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, chefs de délégation, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi en premier lieu de vous adresser les chaleureuses félicitations de la délégation de l'Union des Comores pour votre élection en tant que femme à la présidence de la 42e session de la Conférence générale de l'UNESCO. C'est une fierté majeure et salutaire pour notre prestigieuse organisation et aussi féliciter les acteurs de cette grande messe de la famille UNESCO qu'est la Conférence générale pour tous les efforts déployés avec à sa tête Madame la Directrice générale Audrey Azoulay. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, cette conférence demeure plus que jamais fondamentale. À tous les égards, la 42e session de la Conférence générale de l'UNESCO se tient dans une situation où le monde fait face à de multiples crises naturelles sans précédent auxquelles entravent notre planète et des pertes humaines grandissant dues au séisme, inondations et autres. Ajoutez à cela aux guerres dévastatrices qui déshumanisent les peuples en minant les générations montantes à cause des conflits politiques difficilement maîtrisables et indéterminables. De son préambule, l'acte constitutif de l'UNESCO proclame que les guerres prenant naissance dans les esprits des hommes, c'est dans l'esprit des hommes que doivent être élevées les défenses de la paix. Cette belle citation devrait être ancrée en nous tous, mais nous constatons amèrement les différentes formes d'inégalité au quotidien, mettant en cause les efforts durement acquis et qui nuisent à la cohésion de l'humanité. Où va donc le monde face à ces massacres à ciel ouvert? Nous sommes tous appelés à mener des réflexions globales sur les nombreux défis et interrogations qui nous interpellent au quotidien, tels que les différents maux qui rongent la planète, la qualité de l'enseignement en Afrique, le terrorisme et les autres challenges climatiques. Notre organisation sanctuaire de la paix et maison de l'éducation constitue l'exemple vivant du multilatéralisme par excellence. Le monde y vient pour promouvoir et recevoir savoir et éducation et culture. Le temps de nous référer nous interpelle en égrenant son préambule de l'acte constitutif de l'UNESCO pour faire acte de résilience afin de ne pas ébranler les valeurs de cette noble maison et construire une véritable culture de la paix. Au nom du gouvernement comorien, de son peuple et à mon nom personnel, je présente les condoléances les plus émues à toutes les populations endeuillées par le monde dont les leurs sont partis dans les différentes circonstances suisses mentionnées. Qu'ils reposent en paix. Madame la Présidente, permettez-moi de souhaiter au nom de mon pays, les Comores, et à mon nom propre, un bon retour des États-Unis dans cette grande famille qu'est l'UNESCO. Nous restons entièrement convaincus que la réintégration des États-Unis est plus qu'une nécessité. Mesdames et messieurs, notre UNESCO que nous aimons tous se doit de chercher un souffle nouveau pour faire face aux enjeux du numérique, du réchauffement climatique, mais vous serez d'avis avec moi que l'éducation, la science et la culture, ces grands piliers de l'UNESCO, sont et restent plus que jamais les seules vraies armes capables de triompher les grands agendas mondiaux fortement attendus pour une relance inéluctable, salutaire pour le développement de l'Afrique et du monde. Nous avons foi en la réforme stratégique engagée dont l'objectif est de faire face aux différents enjeux que traverse l'UNESCO et nous sommes confiants qu'elle ne ménagera aucun effort pour mettre en action les différents programmes mis en place en faveur de la priorité Afrique, mais surtout ceux des petits États insulaires en développement comme les Comores. Par ailleurs, l'éducation constitue la solution idoine à tous nos problèmes. Je voudrais vous assurer que mon pays, les Comores, souscrit entièrement au processus de transformation stratégique de l'UNESCO destiné à rendre notre organisation à même de répondre aux défis contemporains à l'instar des objectifs de développement durable à l'horizon 2030 intitulé Agenda 2030, portant une vision de la transformation de notre monde en éradiquant la pauvreté et en assurant sa transition vers le développement durable. C'est dans ce sens que notre gouvernement a adopté le plan Comores émergent qui s'inscrit à ce grand agenda mondial à l'instar de celui de l'Afrique. Mesdames et messieurs, l'accès à l'éducation est un droit pour tous. L'UNESCO s'évertue constamment et énergiquement à en faire une réalité, mais nonobstant des progrès incontestables, il reste beaucoup à faire pour assurer un enseignement de qualité sans laisser personne de côté. L'Union des Comores s'est étalée sur l'élaboration d'une politique nationale de l'éducation au développement durable et l'élaboration de la politique culturelle. Ces activités restent les plus grands chantiers entrepris. En effet, dans le domaine de la culture, l'Union des Comores compte sur le soutien constant de l'UNESCO pour développer et pérenniser des initiatives en faveur de la sauvegarde de son patrimoine culturel, naturel et immatériel qui caractérise une forte richesse diversifiée. Excellence, Madame la Présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs, pour finir, l'Union des Comores fait sienne toutes les déclarations faites par les États membres du groupe 5A et ceux du groupe 5B dans cette auguste assemblée. Au nom du gouvernement comorien, je souhaite plein succès à nos travaux de la conférence générale et vous remercie pour votre aimable attention.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Ministre. May I invite now to the floor Her Excellency Ms. Annika Hambrud, Minister of Education and Culture of Åland Islands.
Madam President, Excellence, ladies and gentlemen, we are here because we want to contribute to a better world. We believe in and we support the mission of UNESCO in all its meaning and especially in favor of sustainable peace. Madam President, we congratulate you on your election and we wish you and your colleagues all the best. Åland was welcomed as an associate member of UNESCO in 2021. In this assembly, in the same year as we celebrate our 100 year of self-governance, we became National Commission number 200. Today, strong connections are established with the Nordic National Commissions, especially and naturally together with the Finland National Commission. Åland is also a part of the informal network of European National Commission for UNESCO. These are examples of collaboration we highly appreciate. We also believe we can contribute to the overall development of UNESCO and its core values, which we believe is necessary for our common future. Åland Islands' commitment to UNESCO is based on peace, democracy, and sustainable development. Our priority is to highlight Åland's special status on a self-governed, demilitarized, and neutralized autonomy. We would like to share our insights in building sustainable peace. The Åland example is an internationally recognized source of inspiration for peaceful management of crisis. The Åland example is the result of a decision made in the League of Nations more than 100 years ago, a successful decision that still holds up today. Thanks to that, we are today called Island of Peace. We particularly want to underline the importance of UNESCO's role and work in times of crisis. It is more important than ever to share successful examples of peaceful solution and deliberate democracy as a counterforce against war and polarization. We would like to highlight our practical experience of turning the motto of UNESCO, building peace in the minds of men and women, into reality. Our own Åland Islands Peace Institute is a non-political, non-religious foundation that was founded in 1992. The Institute has consultative status with the UN Economic and Social Council and focused on self-governance, minority issues, demilitarization, neutralization, and conflict resolution. UNESCO is global and we are local, but also international. The Åland archipelago has an outstanding character with a biosphere that is unique. We are surrounded by the sea and we travel the world today and yesterday. We are proud of our first contribution to UNESCO's Memory of the World Register, ship owner Gustav Eriksson, whose research of the oceans still brings knowledge to science. We want to continue that work and take part in the Decade of the Ocean and its mission. We also believe we could contribute to the work within the small island developing states, the SIDS commissions. Madam President, I want to link back to what Finland said yesterday. The importance of education and the role of the youth cannot be emphasized enough. As we have underlined in the UNESCO recommendation from 1974, and what responsibility it brings for our future. Finally, today it's also a day of remembrance. Hence the funeral of former Finnish President Martti Ahtisaari, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, and have also received the UNESCO Peace Prize. He was also a mediator and a true inspiration in the challenge of solving international conflicts. President Ahtisaari was familiar with the Åland example and also the protector of the Baltic Sea Foundation, an example of investment for a cleaner Baltic Sea. Like President Ahtisaari, we truly believe in the power of discussion and agreement in order to avoid conflicts. Together with Finland and the rest of UNESCO family, we shall continue to develop good relations through dialogue and respect for human rights, which constitute the signature of the sustainable democracy that aims to peaceful conflicts resolution and conflict prevention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Minister. Let me now welcome to the floor Her Excellency Ms. Ita Ganji Murangi, Minister of Higher Education, Training and Innovation of Namibia.
Madam President of the 42nd session of UNESCO General Conference, Madam President of the Executive Board, Director General of UNESCO, Excellencies, Madam President, Namibia congratulates you on your appointment as the President of the 42nd session of the General Conference. You can count on Namibia's cooperation and support. Namibia extends its heartfelt appreciation for the Director General's comprehensive report on UNESCO's activities that span from 2018 to 2021. This report notably reveals UNESCO's remarkable accomplishments and invaluable contributions during this period. These achievements have left indelible marks in the realms of education, culture, science, and communication. We are profoundly inspired by the strides made in advancing these important sectors. Our call to action is underscored by the pressing need to sustain unwavering commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly within the African context and among the least developed countries. UNESCO's overarching mandate aimed at fostering peace, inclusivity, and sustainable development through education and culture carries an unparalleled significance. Equally, Namibia holds the Executive Board in high regard for its steadfast dedication to facilitating strategic implementation and accountability of UNESCO's programs. It is evident that the triumph of UNESCO's initiatives hinges on the close-knit collaboration and synergy among member states. In this regard, our plea extends beyond encouraging enhanced cooperation. Namibia strongly emphasizes the pivotal role cooperation plays in amplifying the impact of collective endeavors in promoting education, science, culture, and communication. Namibia wholeheartedly endorses the adoption of the appropriation resolution and the subsequent deliberation and endorsement of the draft budget for the years 2024 to 25. The awareness of UNESCO's indispensable role in addressing global challenges has galvanized our unwavering commitment to securing the organization's financial stability. This is pivotal to UNESCO's capacity not only to address priority Africa, gender equity, and youth empowerment, but also to cater to the unique needs of the least developed countries. The judicious and strategic allocation of financial resources is paramount in ensuring the effective execution of UNESCO's programs. These programs, far from being optional, are instrumental in promoting peace, fostering dialogue, and addressing youth unemployment and propelling development. This forward-thinking strategy is indispensable in empowering UNESCO to adapt to the evolving global landscape and challenges. Such adaptability is a cornerstone of UNESCO's mission to create a better world through education, culture, science, and communication. Going forward, Namibia believes that our focus should be on responding effectively to the findings of the UN monitoring report, which sadly indicates that no country is on course to achieve all the 17 SDGs by 2030. We, however, remain eternally optimistic as we march towards the 2024 Summit of the Future, aimed at redoubling our efforts in achieving goals of Agenda 2030. Namibia places strong emphasis on the pivotal role of education and training in sustainable development. Our unwavering support extends to the establishment of Category 2 institutes and centers under UNESCO's auspices. The proposal for a new Category 1 institute in Shanghai, China, and the activities of the Unitwin UNESCO Chairs program, of which Namibia is a proud beneficiary. Namibia recognizes the immense significance of technical and vocational education and training as an important vehicle for equipping the youth with technical and entrepreneurial knowledge and skills and expertise needed to navigate the complexities of today's job market. Our belief is resolute that empowered and educated youth are not merely advantageous, they are the linchpin to self-employment, improved livelihoods, prosperity, peace, and sustainable development. Namibia acknowledges the critical role of national sciences in addressing global challenges, including climate change, environmental preservation, and disaster risk reduction. With gratitude, we observe the increased funding allocated to the Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission and the establishment of Category 2 institutes and centers under the auspices of UNESCO in the realm of natural sciences. We underscore the need for an increased focus on capacity building in this important sector. Namibia's stance is steadfast in underscoring the importance of ethical considerations in the realm of emerging fourth industrial revolution technologies. In November 2021, 193 UNESCO member states adopted the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence and the first ever global normative framework in this domain. After the successful hosting of the Southern African Sub-Regional Forum on Artificial Intelligence in Namibia in September 2022, UNESCO, with the support from the Japanese Funds in Trust, had launched a specific project to assist member states in Africa and small islands developing states in the implementation of the recommendations and the benefit from AI technologies, while addressing the ethical risks through the development and piloting of an innovative tool. In addition, Namibia welcomes the comprehensive progress report on the implementation of the recommendation of the ethics of artificial intelligence. We also support the reinforcement of the recommendation on science and scientific researchers and the preliminary study on the technical and legal aspects concerning the desirability of standard-setting instruments on the ethics of neurotechnology. Our passionate advocacy centers on the development of standards in this domain to ensure that technology and advancement remains firmly rooted in a human-centric approach. Our resolute commitment is to ensure that progress does not compromise the rights and well-being of humanity. We promote cultural preservation and dialogue as pillars of intercultural understanding and peaceful coexistence. Additionally, we commend and extend support to the consolidated report on the implementation by member states of the 2015 recommendation on the protection and promotion of museums and collections, and the 1980 recommendation concerning the status of artists. Our plea is for robust initiatives that safeguard cultural heritage and cultural diversity that entrenches unity and upholds peaceful coexistence. Access to information is of great importance in the midst of fighting digital gap, and Namibia commends the report by the Director General on the implementation of the World Summit on the Information Society outcome. We further appreciate the adoption of the revised statutes of the Intergovernmental Council for the Information for All program. For a small nation yet diverse like mine, inclusivity for equitable access to information and knowledge is so critical. Namibia therefore welcomes and commends the consolidated report on the implementation by member states of the 2003 recommendations concerning the promotion and use of multilingualism and universal access to cyberspace. Press freedom is a basic right of all citizens of the world. Namibia, therefore, does not take for granted our #1 ranking in Africa and #22 ranking in the world on the World Press Freedom Index. Namibia continually strives to create a conducive environment for the free flow of information and development relevant knowledge. In this regard, we appreciate UNESCO's support for the module development and training of the Namibian Police Force on freedom of expression and safety of journalists. In conclusion, Madam President, our gratitude knows no bounds as we extend our thanks to you for the privilege to contribute to this momentous discourse. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Minister. I would like to kindly remind the delegates the limit of 6 minutes of the interventions of their ministers, and I would like to respectfully ask for a quiet room all the time, out of respect for our speakers. We still have 9 speakers to listen to, and let me invite to the floor Her Excellency Madam Luisa Grillo, Minister of Education of Angola.
Excelência, Senhora Presidente da Conferência Geral da Unesco, em nome do Governo da República de Angola, saúdo Vossas Excelências, bem como apresento as calorosas felicitações à Senhora Presidente da Conferência Geral da Unesco pela sua eleição e manifesto o nosso reconhecimento à Senhora Diretora-Geral da Unesco pelo excelente trabalho que tem desenvolvido em prol da nossa organização. Excelências, o biênio 2021-2022 foi marcado por eventos cujas repercussões políticas, socioeconômicas e culturais à escala global conduziram os Estados-membros e os parceiros a reverem as suas programações, assim como a intensificarem os atos de solidariedade, a cooperação e a partilha de boas práticas para a continuidade da vida no planeta Terra, onde as tecnologias se tornaram numa ferramenta ao serviço do desenvolvimento, sempre que regulamentadas. Neste sentido, o Governo de Angola concentrou os seus esforços na implementação de reformas sociais e econômicas para o cumprimento das várias convenções e recomendações da Unesco. Assim, no domínio da educação, destacamos o lançamento do Programa de Transformação Curricular do Subsistema de Educação Geral, em parceria com o BI da Unesco, a massificação do uso das tecnologias digitais no ambiente escolar, o lançamento do projeto de empoderamento das raparigas e aprendizagens para todos, bem como o fortalecimento das competências dos agentes da educação através dos Centros de Excelência de Formação Contínua. Estão em curso, igualmente, as ações referentes à promoção da qualidade do ensino superior, ao desenvolvimento da investigação científica, da promoção da inovação e da transformação tecnológica. Excelências, Mbanza Congo é patrimônio mundial da Unesco e a agenda do Governo de Angola contempla as recomendações do Comitê sobre a salvaguarda do Patrimônio Mundial da Unesco. Concomitantemente, têm sido realizadas outras iniciativas para a identificação e a valorização de diferentes sítios de interesse histórico, nomeadamente o sítio da Batalha do Cuito-Quanaval, o Corredor do Kwanza e a Declaração do Sona como Patrimônio Cultural Imaterial. Como sabemos, a qualidade da vida está igualmente interligada às ações sobre o ambiente, o que nos impele à sua melhor gestão. Por conseguinte, está a ser feita a inventariação do patrimônio natural nacional, com destaque para o Delta do Okavango, as reservas da biosfera, o Programa de Proteção da Welwitschia mirabilis, bem como de outras reservas naturais. Outro sim, registramos avanços na massificação do acesso aos serviços de internet e de telecomunicações, que que são estabelecidos através de cabos de fibra óptica e no investimento que permitiu o lançamento do satélite ANGOSAT 2, com o propósito de melhorar os serviços do sistema de telecomunicações e de todo o sistema tecnológico em desenvolvimento no país, potenciando o acesso ao emprego e ao empreendedorismo de forma regulamentada. Excelências, nos domínios da juventude e do desporto, temos implementado a recomendação da Unesco sobre o doping no desporto e está em curso a catalogação, bem como a elaboração do manual sobre os jogos tradicionais. Aproveitamos o ensejo para, em relação aos jovens, enaltecermos os esforços da Unesco em potenciar a entrada de jovens dos países subrepresentados no Young Professional Program, que resultou na admissão de 2 candidatas angolanas nos quadros da Unesco. Gostaríamos ainda de realçar alguns dos vários programas em curso nos domínios da ação social, família e gênero, nomeadamente o Programa Integrado de Desenvolvimento Local e Combate à Pobreza, o Programa de Promoção e Proteção dos Direitos da Criança para a Valorização da Família e o reforço das suas competências, bem como o Programa de Igualdade de Gênero e Empoderamento da Mulher, que visa a promoção dos direitos da mulher e o empreendedorismo feminino. Excelências, Angola vai albergar o Fórum Pan-Africano para a Cultura de Paz, no período de 22 a 24 de novembro do corrente ano e, em 2024, albergará a próxima reunião regional das Comissões Nacionais em África, tendo como base os instrumentos jurídicos sobre os temas, cujo objetivo é o de desenvolver a cooperação estratégica a nível regional para uma África pacífica e sustentável, pelo que apelamos que a Unesco advogue junto dos Estados-membros e parceiros para participarem nos referidos eventos. Estamos certos de que o diálogo permanente nos conduzirá à estabilidade e à pacificação dos espíritos conturbados pelos conflitos, de cujas vítimas muito humildemente nos curvamos e partilhamos a dor das perdas, pois sabemos que são irrecuperáveis. Deste modo, e para finalizar, encorajamos a Unesco a seguir com a sua missão de contribuir para a edificação de um futuro baseado na partilha, na paz e no progresso social. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Muito obrigada, ministra. May I invite to the floor His Excellency Mr. Ansu Soni, Minister of Education of Liberia.
Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Director General, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, on behalf of Liberia, we congratulate you on your preferment to the presidency of the 42nd General Conference of UNESCO. Liberia pledges its support to your leadership, as we did before your predecessors, and commits to upholding the fundamental principles of UNESCO. Our world, Madam President, is being troubled by conflicts of different parts. Democracies are being tested, while nature itself is reacting to man's unkindness towards it, resulting to disasters due to the changes in climate. The adverse effects of these phenomena are further compounded by the aftermath of COVID-19. These are now becoming so grave that they threaten human existence if we remain unchecked. To do nothing, therefore, is not an option if posterity must have a word to inherit. We are duty-bound to take affirmative actions towards minimizing the climate change effects, support global peace and democracy, and build resilience against all manners of future crises, including health, natural disasters, and conflict of all sorts. In spite of these, we need not hasten to pronounce doom, but rather galvanize hope through a collective resolve to safeguard peace and stability of our common heritage. Madam President, in September of 2023, at the United Nations General Assembly in New York, the President of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. George Manawia, and the Clean Peace Ambassador himself made a commitment that the government under his supervision will oversee a transparent election in 2023, and that Liberians will choose a group of national leaders of their own choices. I'm glad to report to this Assembly that this commitment of the President has been maintained. It is my privilege to also convey to this plenary that Liberia has just concluded the first round of its presidential and general elections on October 10, 2023, and thank the people of Liberia immensely for conducting themselves peacefully in that process. I also convey that a runoff has been announced for November 14 next week, 2023, for the presidency only. I'm once again hopeful that Liberians will demonstrate that we are committed to a democratic process and uphold the rule of law while being intentional to safeguard the peace of our country. If, as founding member of UNESCO, Liberia reinforces its continuous commitment to multilateralism, expanding the scope of UNESCO's sphere of authority in executing its mandate for global peace and human development. In that regard, we recognize the return of the United States. Madam President, Liberia's National Development Agenda, the Pro Agenda for Prosperity and Development, which expires this year, places premium on human development, for which we are pleased to report that significant progress has been made in those regards, in spite of the challenges. These include, for example, gender parity now between girls and boys in school, increased access to education across the country, improved mechanism to extract, retain, and transition girls at all levels, hire and deploy female guidance counselor for public senior secondary schools, construct now 3 STEM schools across the country, constructing also a model early childhood education outfit in several parts of the country. TVET institutions are coming up at 21st century quality in 7 of the 15 counties. Digital textbooks are being distributed to senior secondary school. Provision of public education free of charge to primary and early childhood students, as well as universities in public colleges. Teaching of civics education as of now for good citizenship to be maintained. To guard against learning losses experienced by health and natural disaster, we have built a continuous learning platform to be accessed through radio broadcasting and digital media as of 2024 to allow students not to lose lessons anymore. The above notwithstanding interventions taken together, yet so much more is needed to truly transform education comparable elsewhere. Madam President, Liberia acknowledges UNESCO's technical support in the development of and launch of a new education sector plan. Ambitious roadmap to govern the sector for the next 5 years and in 2027. To increase equitable access, improve the quality and relevance of teaching and learning, and strengthen the efficiency of education system, the plan is estimated at nearly $1 billion. We use this platform to solicit support from friendly nations and organizations. Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, as you may know, Liberia is a founding member of UNESCO. Since its founding 75 years ago, Liberia has been in the vanguard of promoting and propagating the principles of UNESCO. However, for 43 years unbroken, Liberia has not shared the opportunity to serve on the executive board of this noble institution, while unselfishly supporting other member states during the entire duration. Therefore, Liberia has come to this 42nd session, to this assembly, requesting a deserving request to be considered by members, all members, to consider Liberia's candidature for this seat on the executive board after 43 years. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. J'invite maintenant Son Excellence Monsieur El Nurmammadov, vice-ministre des Affaires étrangères de l'Azerbaïdjan.
Merci bien. Dear President of the General Conference, dear Chairperson of the Executive Board, Excellencies, let me start by congratulating Her Excellency Ms. Simona Mirela Miculescu, Ambassador, Permanent Delegate of Romania to UNESCO, on the assumption of the presidency of the 42nd session of the General Conference, and wish her every success in this role. Azerbaijan is one of the main partners of UNESCO and has consistently promoted intercultural and interfaith dialogue through significant global initiatives. The Baku process, launched in 2008 by the President of Azerbaijan, has become an important framework fostering the rapprochement of cultures in partnership with international and regional organizations, including UNESCO. We are proud that last October, with the unanimous support of the member states, the Executive Board adopted the decision to support and promote the Baku process. I'm also glad to inform you that 2 new sites, namely Hyrcanian forests and cultural landscape of Hınalık people and Côte of my country, were inscribed on the World Heritage List within the framework of the 45th session of the World Heritage Committee held in Saudi Arabia in September. Today, as a member of the Executive Board, Azerbaijan is providing a valuable contribution to the effective implementation of UNESCO's mandate. We also serve on the Committee for the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict, the committee that is extremely important to us, as we had suffered from the armed aggression and occupation for a long time. This year, Baku was privileged to host the 7th International Conference of Ministers and Senior Officials responsible for physical education and sport, MINEPS, which was attended by over 500 representatives from 124 countries and international organizations. As a result of the conference, the Baku outcome document was adopted within the framework of Fit for Life sports program of UNESCO. One of the flagship programs that Azerbaijan has been actively supporting is the Priority Africa. In the last 2 years, our National Commission has successfully organized 2 capacity building programs for the Secretary Generals and representatives of the National Commissions of the African countries, and we will continue this program in the years to come. Last year, our government contributed $100,000 to the African World Heritage Fund to support the protection and promotion of African natural and cultural heritage. As the chair of the Non-Aligned Movement, Azerbaijan has recently announced 2 global calls to support the post-pandemic recovery of Africa and small island developing states by allocating $1 million for each call as the first donor country. Ladies and gentlemen, as you are well aware, Azerbaijan has finally restored full sovereignty over all of its internationally recognized territories, which had been under unlawful military occupation by Armenia for almost 3 decades. Tragically, during these long years of occupation, Armenia subjected Azerbaijani cultural heritage to large-scale plunder, destruction, and vandalism. Thousands of cultural objects, including historical monuments, mosques, temples, museums, exhibits, art galleries, archaeological sites, and libraries were looted and destroyed out of ethnic hatred against the people of Azerbaijan. Numerous museum artifacts have been illegally exported to Armenia in gross violations of the 1954 Hague Convention and its 2 protocols. The armed aggression of Armenia against Azerbaijan also inflicted serious damage upon the education infrastructure of my country. More than 2,000 educational facilities were totally obliterated by the occupying power. In May 2022, ISESCO sent a technical mission to the now liberated territories of Azerbaijan and issued a comprehensive report that documented those atrocities, and that report is publicly available. In September 2021, Azerbaijan instituted legal proceedings before the International Court of Justice to hold Armenia to account. Sadly, Azerbaijani cultural, historical, and religious heritage have also been under constant attack in the territory of the present-day Armenia. The historic Azerbaijani toponyms were renamed, and the Azerbaijani mosques and graveyards were vandalized across Armenia to eradicate any trace of ethnic Azerbaijanis who called those territories home for centuries. We have approached UNESCO with a request to send a technical mission to Armenia to investigate those appalling facts, and hope that our request will be accommodated in the interest of fairness and justice. Excellencies, following the liberation of our sovereign lands, we have embarked on large-scale reconstruction works, including the restoration of cultural and religious sites. This work is conducted under the supervision of renowned national and international experts. Azerbaijan has hosted 2 United Nations missions as well as the Human Rights Commissioner of the Council of Europe over the last few weeks to eyewitness the real situation on the ground. These were the first visits ever in the last 30 years, as no international mission was allowed by Armenia to Karabakh while those territories were under its unlawful occupation. I want to emphasize that none of the allegations that Armenia leveled against Azerbaijan yesterday were confirmed by those 2 United Nations missions. In the meantime, we have publicly announced our vision and started taking concrete steps to reintegrate local Armenian population of Karabakh into the political, economic, social, and cultural domain of our society. Chers collègues, malgré les souffrances, les privations et la dévastation sans précédent auxquelles le peuple azerbaïdjanais a été soumis en raison de l'occupation militaire par l'Arménie après la chute de l'Union soviétique, l'Azerbaïdjan a été le premier à lancer un programme de normalisation avec son voisin et a proposé la paix à l'Arménie sur la base du respect égal et mutuel des intérêts légitimes des 2 parties. Nous restons fermement convaincus qu'il existe une opportunité historique pour l'Azerbaïdjan et l'Arménie d'établir des relations de bon voisinage et de coexister côte à côte en paix en tant que 2 États souverains. Et nous espérons que cette fenêtre d'opportunité ne sera pas manquée par l'Arménie. En attendant, permettez-moi de vous assurer que l'Azerbaïdjan poursuivra ses efforts actifs pour contribuer à la promotion du respect mutuel et du dialogue entre les civilisations et défendra les valeurs fondamentales de l'UNESCO. Je vous remercie.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. And now I would like to kindly invite to the microphone Her Excellency Ms. Ana Ribeiro, Undersecretary of Education and Culture of Uruguay.
Señora Presidenta de la Conferencia General, Señora Presidenta del Consejo Ejecutivo, ministros, embajadores, autoridades presentes, excelencias. Uruguay tiene un fuerte compromiso con la trayectoria histórica de UNESCO desde el momento mismo de la fundación de ella. UNESCO ha realizado una importante contribución a la paz y al desarrollo sostenible de nuestras sociedades. Esta nueva conferencia general tiene lugar, sin embargo, en un marco internacional de graves tensiones que pesan sobre la comunidad internacional y ponen en riesgo varios bienes públicos globales que UNESCO promueve y defiende. Y el primero de ellos es la paz. En este marco, Uruguay reafirma los principios establecidos en la Carta de las Naciones Unidas y en la Constitución de UNESCO por ser los que han inspirado nuestra política exterior. Saludamos el retorno de Estados Unidos a la organización como un hecho positivo que fortalecerá la capacidad de acción de UNESCO desde el punto de vista institucional y naturalmente el financiero. El mundo necesita más multilateralismo, nunca menos. Uruguay es depositario de una herencia histórica mayor, que es la Oficina Regional de UNESCO con sede en Montevideo con más de 70 años de antigüedad. La transformación estratégica impulsada por la directora general ha sido seguida atentamente por Uruguay, especialmente en cuanto al dispositivo fuera de la sede. Nuestra única preocupación es asegurar que el capital histórico de las oficinas no se diluya y que cuenten con la efectiva dotación de expertos para garantizar que las especialidades adquiridas sean tenidas en cuenta en el nuevo diseño. Por su parte, la Comisión Nacional Uruguaya ha impulsado la iniciativa pionera de Rutas UNESCO, un programa que integra los distintos sitios de patrimonio mundial existentes en Uruguay, tanto patrimonio tangible como intangible, los biomas, el geoparque, las ciudades creativas. En 2023, Rutas UNESCO llevó adelante una gira a través de todos esos sitios patrimoniales reconocidos por UNESCO, logrando un fortalecimiento social e identitario en cada una de las comunidades, ciudades y paisajes que fueron visitados. es necesario atender la vulnerabilidad de los sitios patrimoniales ante los impactos del cambio climático, por lo cual esperamos poder contar a la brevedad con el documento actualizado sobre patrimonio y cambio climático. En tal sentido, Uruguay ha asumido la vicepresidencia del programa Memoria del Mundo de América Latina y el Caribe, MOULAC, participando de las iniciativas en defensa del patrimonio documental en riesgo. Quisiéramos remarcar al respecto la necesidad que tenemos muchos países de reforzar nuestras capacidades nacionales para estar en igualdad de condiciones de desarrollar políticas públicas que salvaguarden nuestro legado. Reafirmamos el indeclinable compromiso de Uruguay con la libertad de prensa, con la seguridad de los periodistas, con el combate al acoso en el mundo digital y muy especialmente que sufren las mujeres periodistas. Uruguay ha respaldado activamente las iniciativas de UNESCO en materia de combate contra la desinformación y contra los discursos de odio. Respaldamos asimismo el trabajo de UNESCO en materia de bioética, de cuyo comité intergubernamental Uruguay forma parte. Y también reconocemos la labor pionera que desempeña la organización, abriendo camino en temas esenciales como lo son la inteligencia artificial y la demanda de un marco ético en materia de neurociencia. En línea con estos desarrollos, Uruguay aprobó hace 2 semanas, y se los decimos con indisimulable orgullo, el marco ético referencial para el manejo de enseñanza de la inteligencia artificial. También quiero destacar que Uruguay provee de contenido transmedia a los países de la región en un trabajo conjunto entre UNESCO, nuestra Agencia de Cine y Audiovisual, y Ceibal. Ceibal es un plan que provee una computadora para cada niño con su correspondiente plataforma de contenidos. Asimismo, provee a la Biblioteca de UNESCO de recursos educativos abiertos en formato digital. Volveré a mencionar a Ceibal en otras ocasiones de este discurso porque es muy importante en nuestra transformación educativa. 2 centros categoría 2 de alcance regional instalados en Uruguay cumplen una gran labor en materia de uso racional de los recursos y calidad de las aguas. El Centro Regional para la Gestión de Aguas Subterráneas en América Latina y el Caribe y el Centro Regional sobre Tecnologías de Saneamiento. También quisiera poner de relieve las actividades dedicadas a la protección del patrimonio geológico, la biodiversidad y el medio ambiente, de conformidad con los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. Uruguay cuenta al respecto con un geoparque y 2 reservas de biosfera que se enmarcan en estos objetivos y que coexisten con 2 nuevos proyectos de geoparque que están en una fase muy avanzada. Una en el departamento de Cerro Largo y otra en el departamento de La Valleja, en un entorno de sierras y aguas manantiales. El Poder Ejecutivo ha elevado al Parlamento Nacional un proyecto de ley para la aprobación de la Convención de UNESCO para la protección del patrimonio cultural subacuático. Señora Presidente, la firma del presidente del Uruguay al pie del proyecto de ley es una expresión de voluntad política en sintonía con la Convención de UNESCO. Durante la pandemia de COVID-19, Ceibal fue una herramienta muy eficaz para asegurar la continuidad de los cursos en la enseñanza y una vez que fue posible retornar a las aulas, se convirtió en una plataforma para la enseñanza híbrida. La inteligencia artificial también es uno de los desafíos de Ceibal y se está trabajando en los procesos de aprendizaje, en los mecanismos de evaluación y en la capacitación de los docentes para todos estos cambios. La red de escuelas PEA participan de este proceso y pensamos que es fundamental que se dote a las escuelas de una herramienta técnica necesaria para llevar adelante sus objetivos. Esto le permitiría sumarse al proceso de vanguardia que Ceibal está llevando a cabo en todo el país. En materia de educación superior, ratificamos la Convención Mundial y la Convención Regional sobre Reconocimientos de Título. En 2023 fuimos sede y presidimos la conferencia del convenio regional que reunió a 23 países y también fuimos sede este año del lanzamiento global del informe de seguimiento de la educación en el mundo sobre tecnología y educación, organizado este evento con el Ministerio de Educación y Cultura, Fundación Ceibal y UNESCO, por supuesto. Valoramos enormemente también el desarrollo de las cátedras UNESCO en el marco del programa UNIDWIN. Tenemos una decena de cátedras y sumaremos en las próximas semanas una de ellas, la última, en torno al legado de Edgar Morin y el pensamiento complejo. Señora Presidenta, la música suena. Espero que este inventario de tareas realizadas y en curso dejen claro la voluntad de Uruguay de renovar el compromiso con el multilateralismo y con la gran tarea de UNESCO, esa gran tarea que no es otra sino apoyar los procesos de cambio que caracterizan la historia de la humanidad, apostando únicamente a la poderosísima arma de la educación, la cultura y la ciencia. Muchísimas gracias por su atención.
Muchas gracias, señora ministra. May I invite to the floor now the chair of the UNESCO National Commission of New Zealand, Miss Elizabeth Longworth.
Tihe mori ora, te whare e tu nei, tēnā koe. Te papa I wahu nei, tēnā koe. Te mana whenua o tēnei rohe, tēnā koutou. Te honga mate, ki te honga mate, haere, haere, haere. Te honga ora ki a tātou, te honga ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. We greet this house, we greet this land, we greet the people here. We think of those who've gone before us. We give thanks for those of us here today. Greetings to each of you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. When we last gathered together in person here, since then, the world has continued to face extraordinary crises and challenges, from escalating conflicts to a dangerous level of global warming. We join with the other speakers who have expressed abhorrence for the violence, destruction, and suffering afflicting so many civilians in too many conflicts. The nature of the many challenges in the world confirms the importance of multilateralism and the international rules-based order. As Aotearoa New Zealand stated at the recent UN General Assembly in New York, we have no hope of meeting our shared challenges by going it alone. We live in an interconnected and interdependent world in which we will thrive or perish together. UNESCO's work to build peace, to contribute to the eradication of poverty, and to support sustainable development and intercultural dialogue must continue. Language is a window into a worldview. Professor Rowenia Higgins, Pacific co-chair of the Decade of Indigenous Languages Global Task Force, notes that languages can be lost within one generation, and it takes 3 generations to be recovered. The international community must act with urgency to protect languages, especially those of Indigenous communities, to ensure that the rich diversity of worldviews that capture thoughts, perspectives, and understandings are not lost forever. New Zealand was pleased to have played a key role in the 2020 global launch of the International Decade for Indigenous Languages, with the participation at ministerial level. More than 50 years ago, the Māori language petition led a resurgence of recognition for Māori language as a taonga, or a treasure. It was declared an official language with strong government support for its use in education, media, and promotion through national events, signage, and within the public service. This affirmed the value Aotearoa New Zealand and New Zealanders increasingly give to te reo Māori. At UNESCO's core is the knowledge that the world is rich with ways of understanding. Languages are a key part of the maintenance of that richness. As a laboratory of ideas, UNESCO must seek to work in a way that truly acknowledges and includes Indigenous knowledge and understandings of the world. This is not a simple task. Courage, humility, and integrity is required. Madam President, the ocean, Te Moana a Kiwa, has long been our highway and connected to the world. We are proud of our place in the family of ocean states. in the vast blue continent. The significance of our ocean is central to our sense of identity and economic, social, and cultural well-being. This is increasingly threatened by climate change, habitat loss, overfishing, and pollution. Aotearoa New Zealand is actively engaging with the Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, working closely with our paid challengers, including through the New Zealand Decade Committee. The IOC has a key role to play in backing new approaches, in particular to support small island states to address the disproportionate impacts of climate change on life in and around the ocean. In Aotearoa New Zealand, ocean science draws from many knowledges and practices, including those of Māori and the Pacific. Weaving these knowledge systems together with mainstream science is imperative and has created a unique approach to how we undertake research and how we collaborate. This multidisciplinary approach is particularly important given the urgent need to implement adaptation strategies and responses to the impact of climate change on oceans. Madam President, UNESCO has always prided itself on being an organisation which values the voices of all its member states on an equal basis. At times, this value has not been felt by smaller nations, particularly those in more remote regions. As we did at the last General Conference, Aotearoa New Zealand calls on UNESCO to consider the barriers to full engagement in the current context and to uphold its tradition of facilitating inclusive participation of all member states. This means extra efforts to ensure genuine consultation and that all voices, small or large, are heard. Aotearoa New Zealand continues to wholeheartedly engage in UNESCO programs. We are proud to have officially established our first UNESCO Global Geopark this year. We continue to support our 4 inspiring creative cities, our chairs, the Memory of the World, and our World Heritage programs. In the current global climate, the work of UNESCO is as important as it has ever been. Aotearoa New Zealand stands together with its UNESCO whānau, or family, in these challenging times. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa punamu te moana, kia tere te ka rohi rohi, I mua I tō huarahi. May peace be widespread, may the sea glisten like green stone, and may the shimmer of light guide you on your way. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutua. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll listen now to the Secretary General of the Mongolian National Commission for UNESCO, Mr. Bolsaikan Sambu.
Madam President, Madam Director General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Mongolian delegation, it is my honor to address you all today. As we approach the midpoint of the 2030 Agenda, UNESCO's mission is more crucial than ever. History has taught us that unity, trust, friendship, and dialogue are essential in overcoming the challenges faced by our deeply, deeply interconnected world. Mongolia, therefore, reaffirms its unwavering support and commitment to UNESCO's mandates, fundamental values, and the medium-term strategy. This past year marked the 60th anniversary of Mongolia's membership in UNESCO, a historic occasion which was highlighted by Director General Audrey Azoulay's visit to our country. During this visit, the Mongolian government and UNESCO renewed their Memorandum of Understanding for the next 7 years, pledging to advance peace and sustainable development through culture, education, science, and communication and information, thus upholding our shared commitment to leaving no one behind. Distinguished delegates, I would like to commend UNESCO for its valuable contributions to the transformation of education systems around the globe, Mongolia included. I'm pleased to inform you that in July of this year, the Mongolian parliament passed a series of education laws with the aim of overhauling our entire education system to ensure the provision of quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for all. This historic and comprehensive reform drew heavily from the recommendations from UNESCO's policy reviews. Therefore, again, I wish to extend our sincere thanks to UNESCO for its invaluable support. Mongolia is keen to share from this experience, in particular, working with UNESCO to implement significant education policy reform during the Global Dialogue on Evolving Right to Education event scheduled for December 14th here in Paris. Looking ahead, we are eager to collaborate with UNESCO to update our national qualifications framework and to reform our curriculum across all levels. Following the enactment of these laws, Mongolia now prepares to ratify the Global Convention on the Recognition of Qualifications Concerning Higher Education in the near future. Ladies and gentlemen, as a nation with rich nomadic heritage, Mongolia recognizes the significant contributions of nomadic civilizations to shaping modern societies. These contributions include promoting peace, fostering intercultural dialogue, and disseminating knowledge. However, nomads today face significant challenges to their way of life and cultural identity owing to global trends such as climate change, environmental degradation, and rapid industrialization. Furthermore, the rich legacy of nomadic peoples is often under-researched and unrecognized. This is why it is with great pleasure that I announce Mongolia's proposal to launch an initiative titled UNESCO Collection on the History of Nomadic Civilizations. This project, intended to align with UNESCO's General and Regional Histories Collection, aims to offer a series of scholarly publications that delve into the profound history and heritage of nomadic societies. We look forward to engaging in fruitful discussion about this initiative during the SHS Commission, and we cordially invite all member states to support this significant endeavor. Mongolia prioritizes UNESCO's core mandates, and this includes gender equality. Mongolian government hosted the inaugural Female Foreign Ministers meeting in June this year, led by Minister for Foreign Affairs, Madame Batsitsik Batmukh. This meeting focused on enhancing the resilience of women and girls against climate change and environmental challenges. We invite UNESCO and all member states to support and participate in the upcoming Global Women's Forum to be held in Mongolia in August 2024. This year, Mongolia has successfully added one site to the Biosphere Reserves Network and has inscribed one documentary heritage on the International Register, as well as inscribed one World Heritage Site, and Mongolia's capital, Ulaanbaatar City, was included in the Creative Cities Network. These achievements underscore Mongolia's staunch commitment to the preservation of cultural heritage and the integration of cultural policies in our development strategies. In line with this commitment, Mongolia has announced its candidacy for election to the World Heritage Committee for the 2025 to 2029 term. If elected, Mongolia pledges to make significant contributions to the World Heritage Convention. We greatly value and sincerely seek the support of all member states for Mongolia's candidacy. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. J'ai le plaisir d'inviter maintenant Son Excellence Monsieur François Nkuli-Kimfura, ambassadeur de Rwanda en France et délégué permanent auprès de l'UNESCO.
Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Director General, distinguished heads of delegations, Excellencies, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Rwandan government, I have the pleasure and honor of addressing the audience of the General Conference of UNESCO. First, I would like to congratulate you, Madam President, on your election as President of the 42nd General Conference. I would also like to thank the Director General, Audrey Azoulay, and her team for their work, for the hard work in preparing the program and budgets, as well as its partners' contribution to the implementation of the 2030 education agenda. Madam President, distinguished delegates, Rwanda recognizes and gives high consideration to education as a fundamental human right to all citizens by giving to every young Rwandan an equal chance to education. Indeed, Rwanda has effectively embarked on the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals in the education sector by improving inclusive and equitable quality education and lifetime training. Guided by its Vision 2050 and the National Strategy for Transformation, Rwanda has registered tremendous progress in terms of increasing access from basic to higher education and has initiated several policies, priorities towards quality of education. These includes, among others, ensuring increased access to pre-primary education, increasing the promotion of TVET, strengthening the provisions of education at primary level, revamping pre-service teachers training, and finally improving the use of ICT in teaching by scaling up smart classroom and ICT device for teachers. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, to contribute to the implementation of the 2063 Agenda for the Africa we want and the Continental Education Strategy for Africa, our government has improved its education system to develop the transformative education for the future by providing the knowledge, skills, and tools for green technology, AI, and STEM. In this regard, Rwanda has now 2 centers of excellence designated Category 2 under UNESCO auspices, one in fundamental research and physics, the second in teaching and research on biodiversity and natural resources. Under the leadership of President Paul Kagame, Rwanda has also embarked on a higher level path in ICT development, with the national fiber optics network in place and broadband internet reaching remote areas, as well as their schools and health centers. Rwanda has implemented a range of strategies to empower the young generations, fostering innovations and self-employment. This includes establishing an innovative environment for the youth through African Centers of Excellence in Higher Education, advanced startup incubators like the North Kigali House, and creative platform for young people networking and hub knowledge for actions like the renowned Youth Connect. Regarding the environmental sustainable development and promotion, strategies have also been put in place to safeguard the immediate ecosystem and boost the tourism sector. Madam President, let me take this opportunity to express our deep appreciation to UNESCO for inscribing Rwanda's first World Heritage natural site, the Nyungwe National Park, an exceptional natural forest in the mountain ecosystem. Rwanda has now 2 biosphere reserves, the Gishwati Mukura landscape and the Volcano Biosphere Reserve since 1983, well known for its touristic, international brand event, Kyrgyzstan. This event marks the mountain gorilla's baby naming, and you'll be pleased to know that this year we had the honor of hosting Madame Audrey Azoulay, the DG of UNESCO. After the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in 1994, the government introduced various homegrown solutions inspired by our ancestral traditions like Abunzi, Umuganda, Umushitirano, Umwiherero, Ubudehe to sustain the culture of peace, social cohesion, and the well-being of its citizens. It is in that same spirit that the government of Rwanda welcomed the recent inscriptions of 4 memorial sites of the genocide against the Tutsi to the World Heritage List. This will contribute to the education of current and future generations on the culture of peace and unity. Madam President, the government of Rwanda highly appreciates and welcomes UNESCO's continuous support and contribution from other development partners in the education sector to foster high quality and inclusive lifelong learning for all. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. May I invite now His Excellency Mr. Vishal Sharma, Ambassador and Permanent Delegate of India to UNESCO.
Madam President of the General Conference and the Executive Board, Madam DG, Excellencies and colleagues, Namaste, Salam, and Sat Sri Akal. I bring you a message of peace and universal solidarity from Bharat, also known as India. India is the largest democracy and the most populous country, the most diverse culturally and ethnically. We speak 121 major and about 1,600 other languages and recognize 22 official languages for governance purposes. 4 of the world's great spiritual paths, the Vedic, Buddhist, Jain, and the Sikh path, emerged in India, while the Judaic, Christian, and Islamic spiritual teachings reached Indian shores centuries before being accepted in other geographies. In addition to being a repository of world religions, India has been a crucible for learning, education, and philosophy, or Vidya, where humankind first contemplated enlightenment, nirvana, or sought answers to the eternal question, why do we exist? Detailed explanations from philosophers like Kannad, Gautam, Patanjali, Kapila, Jaimini, and Vyas provided pluralistic interpretations of our reality. One succinct philosophical treatise is the Bhagavad Gita, one of the greatest texts which speaks of nishkam karma, or selfless action, that is, to do one's duty without expecting anything in return. Our civilization has continuously flourished for over 5,000 years. Coming to our times recently, we successfully hosted the G20 summit, where we adopted the historic New Delhi Declaration, a consensus-based inclusive agreement. The G20 cultural outcome document was titled The Kashi Culture Pathway After Kashi, the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. I invite you to visit India and see the outstanding structures inscribed on the World Heritage List. If ever poetry was carved in stone, it would be in these monuments of India. Friends, India's transformation will see us as the world's 3rd largest economy by the year 2030. Prime Minister Modi's P2G2, or pro-people good governance model, has prioritized sanitation, health, and electricity. The free food program covers 800 million people. India has pulled 415 million Indians out of deprivation and poverty in the last 15 years. and we are the fastest growing major economy. India has about 1.5 million schools, 43,000 colleges, 1,100 university-level institutions. Annually, India awards 8.2 million bachelor's and master's degrees and about 24,000 PhDs. Every year, 13,000 fully sponsored training and vocational courses are offered to foreigners. India's famous IITs, Indian Institutes of Technology, have now opened their campuses in Africa and the Arab world. India is preparing for the world's biggest democratic expression through its national elections in 2024. Education, coupled with the power of the ballot, are instruments of mass socio-economic mobility. We would like to draw your attention to Indian philosophy and Vedic mathematics for a fresh perspective on science. We suggest that globally, educational curricula needs to change. Physics and philosophy, for instance, can walk hand in hand like they did in the great minds of Leonardo da Vinci and Aryabhatta. Holistic education and knowledge balancing the Descartian divide. Excellencies, without gender equality, no growth is complete. India has announced 33% reservation for women in our parliament. Our society is fueled by women-led development. 40% of our STEM students are girls. I am also happy to share that women scientists played a leading role in our Chandrayaan-3 moon mission. Given the Indian penchant to debate, discuss, and dissent, it is not surprising that we have over 150,000 registered newspapers and periodicals, and 900 private satellite channels. 800 million Indians use their mobile phones to consume news and opinions. India is the largest manifestation of freedom of expression. The Sanskrit word Om, the ancient Egyptian Amon, the Judaic Amen, and the Islamic Amin all invoke the divine. Can you not see the interconnectedness of us all? I end with an ancient Sanskrit prayer for world peace. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It means Om, may all be happy, free from illness. See what is auspicious. May no one suffer. Om Shanti, Shalom, Salam. All mean peace. Thank you, and Bharat Mata Ki Jai.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. May I invite now Her Excellency Ms. Marcela Miriam Losardo, Ambassador Permanent Delegate of Argentina to UNESCO.
Señora Presidenta de la Conferencia General, Señora Directora General, Señora Presidenta del Consejo Ejecutivo, señores ministros, Excelencias embajadores. En primer lugar, quisiera felicitar a la Presidenta de la Conferencia General por su designación y desearle el mayor de los éxitos, que lo tendrá. Es un honor poder intervenir ante esta conferencia para reflexionar sobre las prioridades de la organización y nuestra visión sobre los años venideros. Exactamente hace 2 años nos encontrábamos ante el desafío de la salida de una crisis sanitaria mundial. La humanidad sobrelleva aún hoy las consecuencias de una pandemia que costó la vida de 15 millones de personas, sin que aún no hayamos podido reponer de sus consecuencias económicas y sociales. Al mismo tiempo, la crisis climática a la que nuestro planeta se ve sometido nos enfrenta a situaciones de inestabilidad permanente, con consecuencias económicas y sociales que nos exigen respuestas urgentes y solidarias. Por otra parte, asistimos al fenómeno de la revolución tecnológica, un precedente desde la revolución industrial de la primera mitad del siglo XIX, que sigue avanzando sin que los seres humanos hayamos aún podido definir claramente los alcances y los desafíos. Y lamentablemente, viejos y nuevos conflictos desatan guerras que se llevan nuevas vidas. Entonces nos preguntamos, ¿qué es lo que no podemos entender? ¿Qué parte de la historia no hemos vivido? ¿Qué parte de la historia no hemos leído? Ante esta situación, la Argentina reafirma siempre y como siempre su compromiso con una herramienta que ha significado un gran avance para la paz en los últimos 80 años, la consolidación del multilateralismo y en especial del mandato de las Naciones Unidas y de la UNESCO. Mi país condena el terrorismo en todas sus formas. Sus actos constituyen una amenaza para la paz, la seguridad internacional y la dignidad humana. Afirmamos también que el terrorismo debe combatirse en el marco del Estado de Derecho y del pleno respeto del derecho internacional, en particular del derecho internacional humanitario. Pedimos la liberación inmediata de los rehenes secuestrados en Gaza, entre ellos nuestros compatriotas. De igual manera, abogamos para que se permita la llegada de la ayuda que está siendo enviada por mi país y tantos otros. Nos sumamos a los llamados de los distintos organismos de las Naciones Unidas a fin de facilitar la asistencia a los refugiados y la protección de los civiles. Más que nunca, la UNESCO desempeña hoy un papel crucial para el logro de un mundo más pacífico, ejerciendo una labor constructiva en las zonas de conflicto. La comunidad internacional no puede permanecer pasiva ante las realidades que estamos viviendo, persecuciones étnicas, raciales, religiosas y políticas. No podemos soportar más muertes. Destacamos la importancia de seguir reforzando el desarrollo de una cultura sostenible y promoviendo la diversidad y favoreciendo el intercambio de las buenas prácticas que alienten a los Estados a seguir trabajando en la construcción de una cultura de la solidaridad y de la paz. Celebramos los esfuerzos y compromisos asumidos por la UNESCO al impulsar la consolidación del multilateralismo efectivo y la cooperación internacional en materia cultural. La Argentina celebra este año 40 años de recuperación de su democracia. Pudimos decir nunca más a las violaciones de los derechos humanos. La promoción de los derechos humanos constituye una política de Estado que cuenta con el apoyo de la sociedad argentina. La inscripción del Museo y Sitio de Memoria ESMA en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial, que tuvo lugar este año en la reunión de Riad, preservará activa la memoria para que las atrocidades cometidas no ocurran nunca más. Ante los delitos de lesa humanidad, nuestra salida no fue la venganza, nuestra salida fue la justicia, la que concientizará a generaciones presentes y futuras sobre el terrorismo de Estado. Señora Presidenta, tenemos ante nosotros una completa agenda que esperamos poder desarrollar en el marco de la cooperación y el consenso. Entre los múltiples temas, apoyaremos las prioridades de la UNESCO relativas a África, la igualdad de género, los grupos prioritarios y los estados insulares en desarrollo, además del fortalecimiento de la presencia en el terreno para responder mejor a las necesidades de todos los Estados miembros. Consideramos de especial interés otros temas como la mejora de las prácticas en el ámbito de la libertad de expresión y en contra de la desinformación, así también como los avances con las directrices de la regulación de las plataformas digitales y con la ética de la neurociencia. La Argentina destaca la necesidad de fortalecer la coordinación para asegurar el liderazgo de la UNESCO en el seguimiento de la Agenda 2030 y en particular el ODS 4 a nivel internacional y regional. En su carácter de miembro de comité directivo de alto nivel en representación de la región latinoamericana y caribeña, mi país está comprometido activamente con los debates sobre financiamiento educativo, profesión docente y transformación educativa. A nivel global, la Argentina ha llevado la voz de la comunidad educativa internacional a foros multilaterales, tales como las reuniones de ministros de Educación de Mercosur, el Grupo de Trabajo de Educación G20 y la Comunidad de Estados Latinoamericanos y Caribeños. Por otra parte, dando seguimiento a los resultados de la Cumbre de la Transformación de la Educación, organizamos en marzo del corriente año un diálogo interregional sobre educación y desarrollo para América Latina, el Caribe y África. El gobierno argentino ha enviado al Congreso Nacional un proyecto de ley de ampliación de financiamiento. Señora Presidenta, en el transcurso de esta conferencia general tendremos también elecciones de nuevos representantes en distintos comités y comisiones, en los que deberemos mantener nuestros valores y principios fundamentales a partir de los cuales definir nuevos enfoques en nuestra misión. Muy especialmente en esta nueva etapa es que debemos seguir valorando el diálogo y los consensos. La Argentina se encuentra comprometida con la educación, la ciencia y la cultura y los derechos humanos. Con el objeto de que sea mi persona la que represente estos valores, es que mi país me ha elegido como candidata para presidir el Consejo Ejecutivo de la UNESCO. De ser así, mi faro será profundizar y trabajar denodadamente en pos de alimentar en forma permanente el espíritu de colaboración, unidad y solidaridad que son la referencia de esta organización y que representará mi mayor compromiso frente a todos y cada uno de ustedes, los Estados miembros. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, embajadora.
Perdón por la...
I invite now to the floor His Excellency Mr. Xie Chen, Vice Minister of Education of China.
尊敬的大会主席女士、总干事女士、执行局主席女士，尊敬的各位阁下、女士们、先生们，大家好。首先，请允许我向新当选的本届大会主席罗马尼亚大使阁下表示热烈祝贺。相信在您的卓越领导下，本届大会定将载入史册。 当今世界发展不均衡日益严重，社会不平等也在加剧，地区冲突、地区武装冲突不断造成平民伤亡，气候变化危及人类赖以生存的地球家园。人们期待教科文组织提供启迪，与人之思想中筑起保卫和平之屏障。 为解决实际问题提供范例，推动世界回到和平与发展的轨道。各位同事，我们应始终铭记教科文组织的宗旨使命，坚持真正的多边主义，以求同存异、协商一致的精神化解分歧，携手合作，以开放包容、追求卓越的胸怀。 吸纳各领域的专家智慧，聘用各地区的专业人员，以团结消弭冲突隐患，推动文明交流互鉴。我们的事业必将在人民心中播下和平的种子。我们应采取更具有针对性的有力行动。中方 高度赞赏总干事领导的秘书处过去2年的工作，期待新的 C5文件为应对全球挑战提供针对性的解决方案。计划设计与活动实施更加突出问题导向、结果导向、变革导向和团结导向，增强履行本组织的5大职能的能力。 我们应抓住关键，推动教育变革。STEM 教育对推动科技创新、促进可持续发展具有重要的意义，是会员国强调多年、教育与科技工作者长久期盼的事业。昨天，大会通过了在中国上海设立 STEM 教育研究所的决议，这体现了我们 面向未来的远见卓识和团结合作的崇高精神。中方相信，新研究所的设立对应对当前复杂挑战、推动世界教育变革将产生深远影响。中方将全力支持该中心的建设，期待与各方携手推进 STEM 教育，以数字化等创新方式 提升本组织在相关领域的领导力。我们应共同参与国际规则的制定与实施。中方赞赏本组织通过的人工智能伦理建议书和开放科学建议书， 这为解决人工智能伦理安全问题提供的指南，有助于会员国分享最新的科学成果。神经技术关系到社会进步、人类健康与安全，制定神经技术伦理建议意义重大。我们应积极应对科技伦理新挑战，引导世界驾驭新科技，造福人类，避免形成新的鸿沟。我们应更加重视全委会的工作。全委会是本组织与会员国紧密联系在一起的枢纽，应充分发挥全委会的协调作用，形成广泛而可靠的伙伴关系网，汇聚合力，促进发展。各位同事，中国一贯大力支持本组织工作。中国国家主席习近平9月底在北京会见总干事时指出，中国与教科文组织的合作有利于共同推进世界和平与发展事业。中国将继续支持教科文组织在其职能领域发挥作用，支持2大优先战略和2大优先群体，支持非洲、小岛国等发展中国家发展教育，支持世界遗产保护、非物质文化遗产保护、丝绸之路、努力之路、信使杂志，继续支持人鱼生物圈、地质公园和海洋学等本组织的旗舰计划，愿与本组织合作办好第5届世界生物圈保护区大会等国际会议，为实现可持续发展目标作出贡献。各位同事，中方期待与本组织合作实施全球发展倡议、全球文明倡议，共同构建人类命运共同体，携手建设一个更加美好的未来。谢谢大家。
谢谢。Thank you, Mr. Minister. Well, we listened to the last speaker of the morning session. After listening to so many substantial remarks, and before closing our session, we shall now hear from the chairperson of the APEX Commission, His Excellency Mr. Vishal Sharma of India, who will report on the item 1.2, report by the Director General on communications received from Member States invoking the provisions of Article 4C, Paragraph 8C, Article VA, Paragraph 1B, and Article VC, Paragraph 14B from our Constitution. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Madam President of the General Conference, Madam Chairperson of the Executive Board, Mr. Deputy Director General, Excellencies and colleagues, allow me to submit to you the report on the work of the Financial Administrative Programs Support General Questions and External Relations Commission, the APX, on item 1.2, report by the Director General on communications received from Member States invoking the provisions of Article 4C, Paragraph 8C, Article 5A, Paragraph 1B, and Article 5C, Paragraph 14B of the Constitution. This is document 42C10. In accordance with Rule 80 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference, the APX Commission examines Member States' communications invoking the provisions of Article 4C, Paragraph 8C, Article 5A, Para 1B, and Article 5C, Para 14B of the Constitution. I would like to recall that since the 40th session of the General Conference, the APX Commission has established a permanent working group on contributions to make a detailed case-by-case study and to make recommendations for the Commission's consideration. The working group was composed as follows. Group 1, Portugal. Group 2, Lithuania. Group 3, El Salvador. Group 4, Bangladesh. Group 5A, Ghana. Group 5B, State of Palestine. Madam President, the working group met 4 times on 6th September, 27th October, 3rd and 6th November 2023. At its second meeting, the working group elected the representative from the State of Palestine as its chairperson, His Excellency Mr. Munir Anastas. In the report presented by the chair of the working group to the APX Commission yesterday afternoon, he recalled that the mandate of the working group is only to examine the communications received before the statutory deadline set in Rule 80, Paragraph 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference. It is important to highlight that the working group does not assess the situation of member states that do not submit any communication. In the absence of such communications from member states concerned, the latter may no longer have voting rights at the General Conference and eligibility or voting rights as a member of the Executive Board, unless the required payment is received. In light of the above, the working group carefully reviewed the communications received in order to assess 2 elements. Firstly, whether the conditions invoked are genuinely beyond the control of member states. For this purpose, the General Conference adopted 3 criteria in its resolution 30C/82, namely 1, wars and armed conflicts, 2, economic and financial criteria, and 3, natural disasters. The situation invoked should have been proven effects over the 2 preceding years. Secondly, the real intention of the member state to pay its total financial contributions to UNESCO. This is done by examining the undertaking made by the member state to settle its arrears. Particular attention is given to 1, the commitment made to reduce the total amount of arrears, and 2, the respect of existing payment plans. By the deadline of Monday, 9th of October 2023, the working group received 4 communications from the following member states: Libya, Islamic Republic of Iran, Somalia, and Yemen. Having carefully examined the communications received and taking into account additional information provided by the representatives of member states, the working group recommended that voting rights to be granted to the 4 member states who submitted communications. Hence, the APX Commission suggests to the plenary, Recommendation 1. Based on the recommendation of the working group, the APX Commission recommends to the plenary by consensus to grant voting rights to 1, Libya, 2, Islamic Republic of Iran, 3, Somalia, and 4, Yemen. In addition, the working group informed the APX Commission that it further took note of 3 member states, namely Ecuador, Guinea-Bissau, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, that sent their communications after the deadline, as well as 9 member states in arrears that had not submitted any communication. Recommendation number 2. Based on the recommendation of the working group, the APX Commission recommends that the plenary suspend Rule 80, Paragraph 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference to allow the working group on contributions to examine the communications received after the deadline from the countries listed below. 1, Ecuador, 2, Guinea-Bissau, 3, Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Therefore, at its first meeting, the APX Commission only adopted individual paragraphs, namely 1 and 3 in the draft resolution, related to 1, recommending the granting of voting rights to 4 countries that submitted communications on time, and 3, inviting the Director General to report to the Executive Board at its 220th and 222nd sessions, as well as to the General Conference at its 43rd session on the actual position concerning all payment plans agreed upon between UNESCO and member states in arrears with contributions. Paragraph 2 of the draft resolution in its entirety will be adopted if the plenary decides on the recommendation of the APX Commission, based on the recommendation of the working group, to suspend Rule 80, Paragraph 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference in order to allow the working group to subsequently review the 3 communications received after the deadline from Ecuador, Guinea-Bissau, and the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and make its final recommendation. I will come back to you with the second oral report if required, and depending on the plenary's decision on suspension of Rule 80.5 and any subsequent examination of communications received from the 3 member states after the deadline. Madam President, in my capacity as chairperson of the APX Commission, I am submitting these 2 recommendations. First, on granting voting rights to Libya, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Somalia, and Yemen, and second, on suspending Rule 80, Paragraph 5 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference for approval by the plenary meeting of the General Conference. With your indulgence, I propose that this decision be taken without debate in line with past practice. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your report. Dear delegates, dear colleagues, may I consider that the General Conference approves with consensus the recommendations made by the APX Commission, including the exceptional suspension of Rule 80.5 of the Rules of Procedure of the General Conference? It is so decided. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this was the last task on our list. Thus, we have concluded our work for this morning. I wish you a great lunch, and we'll see each other soon at 3 p.m. sharp. Wishing you a great lunch, and thank you so much for everything. The meeting is adjourned.